together, can build more effective, responsive education systems for their youth and their people. And that is the sense, ladies and gentlemen, of the work that we do at the Organization of Southern Cooperation, as the organization of the South, by the South, yet for the entirety of humanity. A work that recognizes that when speaking of development, when speaking of education and its transformation, when speaking of research and technology development, ultimately, we are collectively speaking of peoples. We are speaking of humanity. And that requires, more than any other sector, an approach that is loyal and devoted to the human dimension of our policies. And without wanting, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to extend myself much more, I would like to wish you excellent deliberations during the course of this conference, with my reiterated apologies for my absence, yet consoled in the knowledge that the work that you will do over the next few days will be one that will take us one step closer to the future that we want through the education that we need. For this, ladies and gentlemen, is our collective determination to not build education systems for a changing world, but to build education systems to change the world. And you, without a doubt, are the vanguard of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's once again appreciate His Excellency Sheikh Mansour bin Musalam, who has taken us through learning for sustainable futures, connections between curriculum, cognition, and context, and how to do that. So in this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I wish we start with the first sub-theme of our conference, which is Learning, Diversity, and Identity. And I'll call to the stage Dr. Bernadette N. Karuhanga, who is the Deputy Director, National Curriculum Development Center of Uganda. As she comes on stage, I want to tell you that the National Curriculum Development Center of Uganda is a national corporation autonomous body of the Ministry of Education and Sports, and it is responsible for inter alia development of curriculum and related materials for various levels of education, that is pre-primary, primary, secondary, and tertiary education. It's also responsible for organizing capacity building courses for stakeholders on curriculum and curriculum-related matters. So, Dr. Bernadette, please, the floor is yours. So let's appreciate as she comes on stage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Buto. I hope I've pronounced it correctly. Good morning, colleagues. We are moving to our next session. We will be receiving presentations from the following presenters, and I would like to request them to move to the podium. The first will be a presentation on the provisions for special needs education in the competence-based curriculum, achievements and plans for future sustainability in Kenya. The presenters are Elmad Songe, Stephen Muhoro, and Mary Marajia. However, we shall be receiving Elmad Songe as the presenter of this paper. I would like to invite Elmad to the front so that he can take his seat. The second presenter will be a presentation from Subira Nema on secondary education in the competence-based curriculum. I'd like to also invite Subira Nema to come over and take her seat. And the third will be a presentation by Mosa Yusuf Adam on learning for sustainable futures, connections between curriculum, cognition, and context. I would also like to invite Mosa Yusuf Adam to the podium to take his seat. Can we have the presenters come over? And we shall be allowing 10 minutes to each of the presenters. And so we shall have, kindly take a seat. Mosa Yusuf Adam and Subira Nema, kindly take your seats. In the interest of time, as we await the other members to join us, let's invite Elmad Songe, who is going to make a presentation on the provisions for special needs education in the competence-based curriculum, achievements and plans for future sustainability in Kenya. This paper focuses on the adoption of competence-based curriculum by Kenya, and it has been given a dawn to provision of special needs education in the country. This is evidenced by the various pronouncements and commitments in legal, policy, and implementation frameworks, which explicitly outline ways in which the diverse needs of learners with special needs and disabilities should be addressed by the curriculum. Core amongst them presented in this paper is the critical role played by functional educational assessment in the identification and placement of learners with special needs and disabilities in the appropriate curriculum. In addition, the paper points out the provisions made regarding the development and adaptation of curriculum, curriculum support materials, and assessment to suit the needs of all categories of learners with special needs and disabilities. This, according to them, has created opportunities for every learner with special needs and disability to follow either the age-based curriculum, stage-based curriculum, or the home-based education program. The paper also highlights what Kenya has achieved to date, which include implementing differentiated curriculum for these learners from pre-primary to junior school under the AGC and foundation, intermediate and pre-vocational levels under the stage-based curriculum. Grade 8, 9, and 10 and vocational level curriculum designs have also been developed and adapted. In addition, a curriculum design and handbook on inclusive education have been developed to equip teachers with competencies of supporting all learners, including those with special needs and disabilities. Further, this paper presents strategies for future sustainability and engagements to ensure provision of accessible, quality, and successful education for learners with special needs and disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in inviting Mr. Elmad Songe to come to the podium and present the paper. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair of this session, all colleagues in this conference. Good morning. Yeah, I'm making a paper presentation supported by my colleague, Mr. Stephen Mohoro and Mary Maragia, titled The Provisions of Special Needs Education in Competence-Based Curriculum, Achievements and Plans for Future Sustainability. And I can say that the advent of CBC actually gave a new dawn to special needs education in this country. First, in terms of accessibility, where now it is clear that learners with special needs are receiving their education in all settings, including special schools, units, inclusive schools, and even in home-based education programs. In terms of quality, CBC has ensured that actually our learners with special needs are receiving quality curriculum, curriculum support materials, in terms of the quality of teachers, and even other resources. In terms of relevance, we have now developed or differentiated curriculum to meet the needs of each and every learner. So each kind of learner or category of learner is receiving or is being placed in appropriate curriculum that meets their needs. In terms of transition, learners with special needs are now able to move from when they enter school, either in pre-primary one, they're able to proceed up to senior school and tertiary level, and those who are following the other pathway are entering at foundation level, they are moving up to vocational level and proceed to the world of work. So it is very clear, something that was not there before. We are priding in the many legal frameworks, policies that are actually supporting curriculum for learners with special needs. First is the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which actually is making provisions that persons with disabilities are able to use different modes of communication, and we are aware that communication is very key in terms of facilitating learning. So Kenyan Sign Language, Braille, and other modes that are used by these learners is actually provided for in the Constitution. Apart from that, the Constitution is indicating very well in Article 10 that we need to embrace human dignity, inclusiveness, non-discrimination, and this is a key pointer to actually achievement and success in education for all learners. The Constitution is further talking about free and compulsory education to all children, and this includes children with disabilities. And again, in Article 454 of the Constitution, where these learners are entitled to actually schools or learning institutions that are integrated in the society that meets their interests, and also accessing information and facilities that are compatible with their needs. The other thing we pride on is the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 4, which talks about inclusive, accessible, quality education and lifelong learning, and this is something that we pride on because learners with special needs have to benefit in that context. The other thing we pride on is actually the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability 2006 that also talk about entitlement that state persons must ensure that these children or persons with disabilities have access to general, primary, secondary, tertiary, and vocational training, and even lifelong learning. And that informs our vision in this curriculum. Vision 2030 talks about modernization of teacher education, and one of the things we have done is to ensure that all teachers are being trained on inclusive education to support all learners. We also pride in our Basic Education Act of 2013 that talks about teachers, support staff, and learning materials and curriculum that suits the needs of learners with special needs and disabilities. We also pride in the Persons with Disability Act of 2003, which also talks about that all learning institutions should be able to provide for these learners in terms of curriculum, examinations, learning resources, and all that is necessary to support learning. In 2018, the Ministry of Education in Kenya also developed a policy called the Sector Policy for Learners and Trainees with Disabilities, It talks about differentiated curriculum and curriculum support materials, and also training of teachers and other support staff to be able to support learners with special needs and disabilities in learning. Again, as KICD, when we were adopting CBC, we developed a basic education curriculum framework, which actually have guided us throughout on how to develop curriculum and curriculum support for these support materials for these learners. If you look at the mission of CBC, that is nurturing every learner's potential, and we do emphasize every, means all learners, including learners with special needs, they have a potential that needs to be nurtured. The framework also provides for the curriculum structure, which begins from pre-primary or early years up to senior school, and our learners with special needs that are able to follow that path have been catered for. And also, on the other hand, we introduce another pathway for learners who basically their primary disability is intellectual disability. They enter at foundation level and move up to the vocational levels. And those who may not be able to go to a school setting, the framework provides for a home-based education program which will cater for their needs. Now, again, in this framework, we developed a model, the CBC model for special needs education, which gives center stage to functional educational assessment. This is where specialists identify the needs of learners based on their disability, the nature of their disability, and their level of functioning, and they are placed appropriately in a given curriculum. Again, they are placed in institutions where they can learn better. And also in this model, we have proposed a varied curriculum to be able to support all categories of learners that we may think of. We have an enriched curriculum, adapted curriculum, specialist curriculum, specialized curriculum, intervention programs, and also home-based education program, especially for learners with severe and profound disabilities. Now, what have we achieved? Because I've told them I only have 10 minutes. In terms of achievement, we have been able to develop curriculum and curriculum support materials for learners in the age-based curriculum from pre-primary up to grade 7 that is being implemented, and also grade 8, 9, and 10 are also ready for implementation. We have also developed curriculum for learners who are following the foundation level up to vocational level. Implementation have been done up to pre-vocational level. We have books and handbooks supporting the learners and the teachers up to grade 7 and also up to pre-vocational level. We have developed a curriculum design for inclusive education and even a handbook that's going to support teachers, teacher educators to prepare the teachers who are going to meet these learners in schools and they're able to support them. Something that is quite new. It was not happening before, where teachers would just say this learner does not belong to this school. But now they are going to have competencies to support every learner they meet in school. We have also adapted digital content for these learners up to grade 4, and we have plans to move up to the highest level. We have revised the functional education assessment tools that professionals are going to use to identify these learners and place them appropriately so that they can enjoy the differentiated curriculum for them. We have also worked closely with stakeholders and NEC to differentiate assessment for these learners, so all learners are able to be assessed and proceed from one level to the next. Now, what are our future plans? Future plans is that we want to continue our partnering with the stakeholders, both government and non-government, to be able to ensure that there's quality curriculum and curriculum support materials for learners with special needs in this country. Our plan is also to ensure that we develop and implement teacher education curriculum and programs to be able to ensure that teachers are able to support these learners effectively in the learning process. We also want to partner with stakeholders to ensure that there's a policy that is clearly indicating how we support learners who are gifted and talented, those with learning disability, those who have emotional and behavior disorders, and learners living under difficult circumstances, which are so many. Those are so many categories of learners. Because it's not clear, we talk about enriching the curriculum, but it's not clear how. We are talking about acceleration for these learners, we are not saying how. Or early entries or early beginners, those are learners who at grade 3, they may be in school. We are not saying how they're going to be supported. And then we are also going to partner with the TVET, the stakeholders, so that we are able to introduce something we call sheltered workshops in TVET, so that learners with trainees with disabilities are able to be supported there. As they train, they're also working to earn a living based on their level of functioning. And also, we are going to develop and implement home-based curriculum and also establish structures to be able to facilitate that. So thank you so much. I know more will be if you get the paper. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elmad Songe. Can we give him a round of applause? He has taken us through the efforts that have been made by the government of Kenya and the KICD in ensuring that the learners with SNE and disabilities are taken care of. In summary, we will take note of the issues that you would like to ask him at the end. We shall give you an opportunity to question any of the participants, but first, let's have presentations from all of them, and then later we shall have a few minutes for each one of them in case we need them to give us clarity on any of the issues that they have talked about. Thank you, Elmad. Next presenter is Madam Subira Nema, who is going to present on the secondary education in the competence-based curriculum. This paper focuses on competence-based curriculum as an offer, and it is offering learning experiences that develop demonstrable competences that are responsive to challenges, issues, and problems within pupils and students' immediate environments. CBC is arguably the default curriculum globally, and it identifies variedly but cumulatively 7 core competences which are consistent with 21st century skills demands. The CBC is generally conceptualized into age-appropriate levels of learning that include the levels of pre-primary, primary, junior school, and senior school at basic education level. Generally, these levels focus on developing, respectively, interaction, socialization, exploration, discovery, and pre-career competencies. This paper raises the essence, key expected learning outcomes, the rationale for learning areas, the anticipated pedagogical approaches or experiences, and assessment modes at the secondary school level, junior school, and senior school. The paper is based on the experiences from the curriculum development and reform process in Kenya as undertaken by the KICD. The presentation is also intended to stimulate further input as the Institute implements CBC at junior school and develops curriculum designs for senior level. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me to invite and welcome Madam Suvira Nema to make the presentation. You're welcome, Suvira.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, good morning. Allow me to go straight away to my presentation. I had prepared for 30 minutes, so I will make good of the 10 minutes. So thank you very much. So I'll start, my presentation takes the following path. I will look at the definition of key terms that I will be using. When it comes to the background information, my colleague who was here before me did a good job to give you just a bit of that background information. Then I will focus more on how we have conceptualized secondary education. Then I will touch just a little bit on the learning approaches and assessment, and briefly talk about the major challenge that we are facing. And Kokelo, you will move a little faster with me. So I looked at 3 key definitions. The first one is competency-based curriculum, being a complex curriculum that has complex outcomes of a learning process, rather than focusing on what learners are expected to learn in terms of traditionally defined subjects. And we will see how that plays out in my presentation. And this is a definition that comes from IBE UNESCO, of course, the guru of curriculum. And they are usually designed around a set of key competencies. And no wonder my paper is looking at those key competencies. And that, what is also critical is that they are cross-curricular and subject-bound. In the context of the KICD, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, we have defined a competency as the ability by a learner to apply appropriate knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes. So please mark those 4 parameters to perform a task to expected standards. And this is found in our basic education curriculum framework, and that guides the manner in which we conceptualize the curriculum at various levels, and of course, when it comes to senior school. What is also important is the learning area. So at the junior secondary, we'll refer to those subjects, those disciplines that are taken by learners as learning areas, and they refer to discrete but related subjects with the explicit aim of integrating students' learning. And therefore, when we look at secondary education, which I will be discussing, we are looking at a level that builds on to competences that are already acquired at the primary education level, but also being a transitional level for those learners who are getting into the labor market or they are transitioning to tertiary education. Therefore, it is seen as an intermediate level of complexity. Now, if you look at the basic education curriculum framework, which is a blueprint for basic education in Kenya, you will see that we have provided the vision of this curriculum reform, the mission, the pillars, the guiding principles, and the structure of education that my colleague looked at. But of importance too, we have provided essence statements for each of the learning area and the progression from one level to the next. Our learning is focused on the aspirations of the country. And these are the national goals of education that look at what collectively puts us together, but we are also looking at the individual, and we are also looking at ourselves as global citizens. So if you look at the national goals of education, they actually range across that spectrum, and I will not go through them, but you will have time to interact with them. So the vision has already been mentioned, being an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen, and therefore even the conceptualization of secondary education is geared towards that vision. So allow me to skip that and look at the core competencies. And as I said, they are cross-curricular and they're embedded in each and every learning area within the subject in secondary school, starting right from communication, working together, which is collaboration, the fact that we need our learners to be empowered, to create, to be problem solvers, to communicate with each other, and to continually learn as espoused in SDG number 4, and then we are looking at digital literacy. My colleague will be doing another presentation on digital literacy, and we will see what experiences we've had. Our curriculum is on 3 pillars, that is values, guiding principles, and theoretical approaches. And I want to zero in on the guiding principle on diversity and inclusion, opportunity and excellence. And you will see that even when it comes to the curricula we have provided at secondary education, it speaks to those ones, and especially differentiated curriculum and learning and offering flexibility. But when it comes to the theoretical approaches, by and large, we are looking at the instructional design theory, the constructivist, Gardner's theory, Piaget's theory. We are also looking at visible learning and so on. These theoretical approaches are extremely critical because then in the first place, they inform learning itself. How is learning organized? What learning areas do we offer? Number 2, it also informs the teaching and learning process. What is the practice of teaching and so on? So we will have a look at that so that you see that that is what is informing how secondary education is conceptualized. Now, secondary education is at 2 levels, at junior and senior secondary. My colleague looked at this previously. Now, let me focus on what is the rationale of each of the levels of education that we have provided. Right at the pre-primary level, we are focusing on interaction skills. Therefore, we are looking at pre-reading skills, we are looking at literacy skills and pre-numeracy skills, and of course a bit of socialization so that the children are moving from home to school. At the primary level, we are looking at socialization skills. So we are giving them literacy skills so that they're able to communicate. We are giving them numeracy skills and social skills as well. But when we get to junior school, then we focus on exploration. And you will see how that plays out shortly when I just focus on junior school, and then senior school is focused on pre-career skills, and that is the beginning of specialization, knowing that that is a transitional stage for the tertiary education and the world of work. Now, given that scenario, we asked ourselves 3 questions as we were thinking about the entire spectrum of basic education, but specifically talking about secondary education. The first question we asked was, what basic skills do all learners require? And the second question was, what core skills do all learners require? And the third one was, what subject-specific skills? And therefore, when we answered these 3 questions, this is then how we got to secondary education. Now, junior school takes learners who are 12 to 14 years old. These are preteens. And we know the stage that they are going through. And we looked at their developmental milestones, physically, mentally, psychologically, and we asked ourselves, based on those 3 questions, then how do we conceptualize junior school? Therefore, junior school offers a very broad-based curriculum. You know that these are learners who are exploring. So this is supposed to give them room, opportunity for them to explore. Who am I? In terms of my abilities, aptitude, personality, and potential. Number 2, we looked at then what do we do to be able to enable them to go through this. Then we said they needed core subjects and optional subjects. So in our curriculum, we looked at what are these core subjects? What are these skills that each learner should have? Then we came up with the core subjects, and also we looked at where are they gifted differently one from another. Then we offered them the optional subjects. But what is also critical at this stage, knowing their developmental stages, is that we needed them to be guided so that they know where their self-efficacy is. So a rigorous career guidance program is developed so that they are able to then be guided as they go along. Therefore, if you look, and by and large, we adopted an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, they are all synonyms, approach to the learning areas. And when I show you the learning areas, then you will see. And this means that we were integrating several disciplines that are related so that the learners are able to see connections within those disciplines, and they are able to relate that to the real world that they are experiencing. So, as some of the subjects we have offered are those ones, and you can see by and large, for instance, English integrates both English language and a bit of literature so that the learners are able to then make meaningful relationships. Look at integrated science, for instance. It has 4 related areas so that the learners are able to make those connections I talked about. And I can go on and on, but you can have a look at this and you can see that this is what we looked at, and the learners then are able to learn very meaningfully. Now, senior school takes learners who are 15 to 18 years old, and as I said earlier, this is a level where we are looking at pre-career skills, and therefore the beginning of specialization is at this stage. And we are giving a very flexible kind of conceptualization of senior school for learners to start thinking about their careers. And the assumption is when they are exiting from junior school, they will have made decisions on what career pathway they'd like to pursue. And therefore, senior schools becomes very important. In this area, we also have 4 core learning areas, and that is physical education, communication skills, community service learning, and ICT, with a focus on psychomotor, cognitive, social, and emotional skills when it comes to the physical education, because we know that health and wellness are very critical. Communication skills are important, so we are looking at skills like listening, speaking, reading, writing, observation, and correct use of language structures. For those learners who will not take languages, this will be a critical learning area for them, because we know it is also one of our core competences, and we make sure that we are taking care of them. Another area that is so critical for every learner at that stage is community service learning, so that learners know that they are members of the community, and the learning that takes within the school context is very meaningful, not only to themselves, but also to the community, and ensuring that the academic growth and personal and professional growth is taken care of. So that is very critical. That will be one of them. And of course, ICT, digital literacy, becomes one of the very critical competencies we need the learners to imbibe and to be able to use as a utility tool. Now, this is how we have conceptualized senior school. As I said, there's a lot of flexibility. It is conceptualized in terms of 3 pathways. And the first pathway is the arts and sports science. And we were looking at our Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and we were looking at generally where are most of the learners getting into, what does the society require? And we are looking at approximately 15% of our learners at senior school getting into this pathway, and it has 3 tracks: sports, performing arts, and the visual arts. Now, time-based media, which is under visual arts, is one of those aspirational subjects that we have, which we have not developed curricula for, and so we will be looking forward to doing that. When you look at the performing arts, by and large, we have very new learning areas like theater and film. In the previous dispensation, we had music and dance together. But in the needs assessment we did undertake, the learners were very categorical, and they said, our abilities are different. There are those who are just interested in dance, and they have an ability in that, and therefore we should provide that opportunity for them. So, time is up. I'm told my time is up. Then we have the social sciences. The social sciences has 2 tracks, the languages and literature, and the humanities and business studies. Just give me a minute as I wind up. And then, of course, one of the topics that has been on this podium throughout these sessions is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics theme. And we visualize that 60% of the learners will get into this track, and we have 4 tracks. Allow me quickly to look at the main pedagogical approaches, and we are looking at the key ones are the constructivist, collaborative, integrative, reflective, and inquiry-based learning. And because Dr. Budo is on my case, I will not be able to go through all of them, but by and large, these are the ones that really guide the way we have conceptualized the curriculum. Number 2, the manner in which we are delivering that curriculum. Number 3, the resources that we are using to ensure that the curriculum is in tandem. So by and large, the approaches are learner-centered as opposed to teacher-centered, to enable the learners to gain a greater understanding of what they are learning. When it comes to assessment, we have been a country that has focused too much on summative assessment. And the paradigm shift is therefore to look at formative assessment and see then how does assessment for learning and assessment as learning help in the learning process, so that the teachers start looking at their practice and reflect on their practice, and they look at how do we improve our practice so that the learning process is effective. But secondly, we are saying that the learners must take responsibility for their learning. Therefore, assessment as learning becomes very critical. Therefore, the teachers will be empowered to facilitate the learners to actually use assessment to be responsible for their own learning. And that means self-assessment, peer assessment, teacher assessment becomes very critical. The main challenge we have faced is the discrepancy between the implemented curriculum and the conceptualized curriculum, mainly because we have inadequate human and financial resources, infrastructural inadequacies, misinformation, inadequate awareness on CBC by varied stakeholders, and negative attitudes towards change. Thank you very much, and thank you for being patient with me.
Thank you very much, Faith. Subira in my language means faith, so for that wonderful exploration of the Kenya curriculum, what it is that we have done or you have done to make sure that you package the right curriculum to the people of Kenya. I will not repeat what she has already mentioned in the interest of time. She was very clear and eloquent, and I believe we have picked the issues in the paper. Thank you very much. A round of applause for her, please. Thank you. As I indicated before, take note of the issues, the questions, and we shall give you a few minutes to present them to the respective presenters. Next, on our podium is Musa Yusuf Adam from Chad, and his presentation is on the Learning for Sustainable Futures, Connections Between Curriculum, Cognition, and Context. And this research dealt with the curriculum and teaching methods due to their importance in the educational system. The curriculum considered a vital element occupant the center of the educational system. It is the basic component of the educational system and the most important means for achieving the educational goals. As for teaching methods, it is applied aspect of the curriculum. The research included 4 topics. The first topic dealt with the method to the curriculum. The second topic dealt with the foundations of building the curriculum. The third topic dealt with the basic elements of the curriculum, while the fourth topic dealt with teaching methods. The research concluded with results and recommendations, and the problem revolves around the following question. Do the curricula currently used in many African countries reflect the elements of social and cultural philosophy and transform them into behavior practiced by learners in accordance with the requirements of contemporary social life in its various aspects? That's the question. In his study, the researcher followed the analytical descriptive approach with its various entrants. It relied on describing and analyzing facts and concepts related to the subject of the study. The aim of this study was to provide solid foundations for building an educational curriculum that enables the transformation of cognitive gains into behavior that the learner practices in his daily life, and an assistant to the rapprochement between local and global social and cultural values in a sustainable manner. So ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Mr. Musa Yusuf Adam to the podium. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سوف أقدم هذا الموضوع باللغة العربية. يتناول الموضوع المنهج وطرق التدريس بصورة عامة. يتطلب البحث عن نوعية التعليم وجودته في أفريقيا إلى ضرورة قيام المنظومة التربوية في أفريقيا
reconsidering the formation of its educational curriculum in a way that meets the desires of social realities.
إعادة النظر في صياغة مناهجها التربوية بشكل يلبي رغبة الحقائق الاجتماعية.
Keep pace with modern aspiration and keep pace with educational development that have cast a shadow on human thought.
ويواكب التطلعات العصرية ويساير المستجدات التربوية التي ألقت بظلالها على الفكر العالمي.
Preparing educational curriculum based on scientific foundations emanating from the values and principles of African society.
كما يتطلب من المنظومة التربوية في أفريقيا إعداد مناهج تربوية مبنية على أسس منبثقة من قيم المجتمع الأفريقي ومبادئه.
Preparing educational curriculum based on scientific foundations emanating from the values and principles of African society.
فالمجتمع هو الأساس الذي يجب أن تنطلق منه أهداف المنهج التربوي.
Society is the basis from which the goals and the objectives of the educational curriculum must be based.
وأن عدم توافق المنهج للقيم الاجتماعية يمكن أن يؤدي إلى عدم نجاح المنهج في تحقيق الأهداف المرجوة منه.
This contributes significantly to the decline in the educational level.
كما يمكن أن يساهم ذلك بشكل كبير في انخفاض المستوى التعليمي.
The importance of the educational curriculum lies in its being an important means for guiding and achieving educational goals, helping in selecting and planning educational elements.
تكمن أهمية المنهج التربوي في كونه وسيلة هامة لتوجيه الأهداف التربوية وتحقيقها.
The importance of the educational curriculum lies in its being an important means for guiding and achieving educational goals, helping in selecting and planning educational elements, guiding the teacher in planning teaching and learning resources, and helping the student to build his personality and develop his inclination, skills, and cognitive abilities.
ويكون مساعدا على اختيار وتخطيط العناصر التربوية ومرشدا للمعلم في تخطيط عمليات التعليم والتعلم ومعينا للتلميذ على بناء شخصيته وتنمية ميوله وقدراته المعرفية.
Guiding the teacher in planning teaching and learning process and helping the student to build his personality and develop skills and cognitive abilities.
المبحث الأول المنهج التربوي.
The first topic, the educational method.
يعتبر المنهج التربوي وعاء يحوي كل العمليات والأنشطة التعليمية ومترجم لها وأداة لتنفيذها ومرآة تعكس واقع المجتمع وتطلعاته المستقبلية.
The educational curriculum is considered a container that contains all educational processes and activities, a translator for them, a tool for their implementation, and a mirror that reflects the reality of society and its future aspirations.
وأنه خطة شاملة لكل الخطوات والأساليب والإجراءات التعليمية التي يمكن من خلالها تزويد المتعلمين بالمعارف والخبرات التي تؤدي إلى تحقيق الأهداف التربوية المنشودة.
It is a comprehensive plan for all educational steps, methods, and procedures through which learners are provided with the knowledge and experiences that lead to achieving the desired educational goals.
تعريف المنهج التربوي.
Definition of the education curriculum.
المنهج التربوي هو مجموعة من أنشطة التعليم والتعلم ذات غايات وأهداف ومحتويات وطرق تدريس ووسائل تقييم تتم بطريقة منتظمة.
The educational curriculum is a set of teaching and learning activities with goals, objective, contents, teaching methods and assessment methods that are carried out in a systematic manner.
أي أنه مجموعة من المعلومات والحقائق والمفاهيم والمبادئ والقيم والنظريات التي تقدم إلى المتعلمين في مرحلة تعليمية معينة.
That is, it is a set of information, facts, concepts, principles, values, and theories that are presented to learners at an educational stage.
المفهوم القديم والحديث للمنهج التربوي.
The ancient and the modern concept of the educational curriculum.
المنهج في مفهومه القديم يرتكز على المفاهيم الدراسية التي تمثل في المقررات والمحتويات.
The curriculum in its old concept is based on the academic concept represented in courses and contents.
وأهمل معظم جوانب العملية التربوية.
And he neglected most aspects of the educational processes.
فاهتم بالجانب المعرفي وأهمل الجوانب الأخرى.
It cared about the cognitive aspect and neglected the other aspect.
واعتمد في بيئته التعليمية على الفصل والمدرسة.
And relied in his educational environment on the classroom and the school.
وجعل المعلم أداة ناقلة للمعارف.
And made the teacher a tool that transmits knowledge.
ولم يهتم بالنشاطات والوسائل التعليمية.
And it did not care about the activities and educational means.
كما لم يراعي الفروق الفردية بين التلاميذ.
Nor did it take into account the individual differences between the students.
أما المنهج في مفهومه الحديث فهو وسيلة تستخدمها المدرسة لتحقيق أهدافها.
The curriculum in its modern concept means it is a means used by education to achieve its goal.
حيث جعل المواد الدراسية وسيلة لتحقيق الأهداف التربوية.
It made the study materials a means to achieve educational goals.
وركز على الخبرات واعتنى بكل المواقف التعليمية وجوانب إنماء الشخصية.
It focused on experiences, care about all educational situations and aspects of personality development.
واهتم بكل جوانب المعارف والمهارات وعزز قدرات التفكير وراء الفروق الفردية بين التلاميذ.
It also cared about all aspects of knowledge and skills. It enhanced thinking abilities and took into account the individual differences between the students. That's the
وربط الدراسة بالبيئة المحيطة بالمدرسة ووفر الظروف المناسبة للتعلم واستخدم النشاطات والوسائل المتنوعة وجعل دور المعلم يقتصر على المساعدة والإرشاد فقط.
Linking the study to the environment surrounding the school, providing appropriate conditions for learning, using various activities and means, and limiting the role of the teacher to assistance and guidance.
المبحث الثاني أسس بناء المنهج التربوي.
The second topic, the foundations of building the educational curriculum.
يعد المنهج التربوي أداة أساسية للمدرسة كي تقوم بدورها في التربية وفقا لقيم المجتمع وأهدافه.
The educational curriculum is an essential tool for the school to play its role in education in accordance with the values and the goals of society.
وحتى يكون المنهج أكثر تأثيرا وإسهاما في انطلاق المجتمع لا بد له أن يستمد أهدافه ومحتواه من المبادئ والقيم الاجتماعية.
In order for the curriculum to be more influential and to contribute to the launch of society, the curriculum must derive its goals and content from the social principles and the values.
وأن يتشكل ويتماثل مع النظم السائدة في المجتمع.
And it should form and correspond with the prevailing system in the society.
فإذا نظرنا إلى المنهج كمنظومة تؤثر وتتأثر ببقية المنظومات الأخرى فإن هذه المنظومة لن تقوم دون وجود أسس واضحة وثابتة لعناصرها المتداخلة والمتشابكة التي تتمثل في العوامل الأساسية المؤثرة على أهداف المجتمع ومحتواه وتتدخل في تشكيله.
If we look at the curriculum as a system that influences and is affected by the rest of the other system, then this system will not be established without clear and stable foundations for its overlapping and interweaving elements, which are represented in the basic factors affecting the objective and the content of the curriculum and interfering in its formation.
فإن تحديد أهداف المنهج بطريقة مناسبة واختيار المحتوى المناسب لهذه الأهداف واستخدام أفضل طرق التدريس يعتمد على دراسة أسس المنهج ومصادر استحقاقه وتحديد عناصره.
Determining its objective in an appropriate manner, choosing the appropriate content for this objective, and using the best method of teaching depend on studying the foundations of the curriculum and its sources of derivations and identifying its element.
وقد حدد علماء التربية 4 أسس رئيسية لبناء المنهج التربوي وهي
Educational scholars have classified 4 main foundations for building the educational curriculums, which are
أولاً الأسس الفلسفية للمنهج التربوي. لن تحقق المدرسة وظيفتها الاجتماعية ما لم يتم صياغة مناهجها وطرق تدريسها على ضوء الفلسفة التربوية المستمدة من قيم المجتمع ومعتقداته الفلسفية التي يؤمن بها ويحرص على تطبيقها.
The first one is the philosophical foundations of the educational curriculum. The school will not achieve its social function unless its curricula and teaching methods are formulated in light of the educational philosophy derived from the society's values and philosophical beliefs that it believes in and is keen to apply.
ثانيا الأسس الاجتماعية للمنهج وهي التي تقوم على التراث الثقافي وقيم المجتمع ومبادئه التي يسعى إلى تحقيقها لأنها تشكل الملامح التي على ضوئها يتم تحديد محتوى المنهج واستراتيجيات التدريس والوسائل والأنشطة التي تحقق الأهداف الاجتماعية.
Secondly, the social foundations of the curriculum, which are based on the cultural heritage and the values and principles of society that it seeks to achieve, because they constitute the futures in the light of which the content of the curriculum, teaching strategies, and the manners and activities that are achieved, the desired social goals are determined.
ثالثاً الأسس النفسية للمنهج وهي التي تتعلق بطبيعة المتعلم وخصائصه النفسية ونموه الجسمي والعقلي والانفعالي والاجتماعي وما يصاحبها من التغيرات السيكولوجية التي يجب مراعاتها عند إعداد المنهج.
Thirdly, the social physiological foundations of the curriculum, which are related to the nature of the learner and his physiological characteristics, his physical, mental, emotional, and social development, and the accompanying psychological changes that must be taken into account when preparing the curriculum.
رابعاً الأسس المعرفية للمنهج وتتعلق بطبيعة المادة الدراسية ومصادر الحصول عليها وعلاقاتها بميادين المعارف والمهارات والقيم والاتجاهات التي تساهم في تحقيق أهداف المنظومة التربوية التي يسعى المنهج لتحقيقها.
Fourth, the cognitive foundations of the curriculum. The cognitive foundations of the curriculum are related to the nature of the study material, the source of obtaining it, and its relationship to the field of knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes that contribute to the achieving the goals of the education system that the curriculum seeks to achieve.
المبحث الثالث العناصر الأساسية للمنهج التربوي.
نقصر هنا يا شيخ ما انتهيت من كل التفسيرات. The third topic, the basic element of the educational curriculum.
المبحث الثالث العناصر الأساسية للمنهج.
The third topic, the basic element of the educational curriculum.
المنهج هو المكون الأساسي بل هو العمود الفقري للمنظومة التربوية التي تعتبر جسماً واحد له مجموعة أعضاء.
The curriculum is the basic component, rather it is the backbone of the educational system, which is considered a single body with a group of members, and since the curriculum is
ولما كان المنهج هو أحد أعضاء النظام التربوي فحينما نسعى إلى تطويره ينبغي أن نطور جميع الجوانب التي لها تأثير مباشر أو غير مباشر فيه، كما يجب عند تحديد عناصر المنهج أن نتأكد جيداً بأن هذه العناصر هي العناصر المهمة بالفعل في بناء المنهج لكي يحقق أهدافه. فهناك 4 عناصر أساسية متكاملة ومترابطة يقوم عليها المنهج يجب مراعاتها عند تخطيط المنهج وهي
And since the curriculum is one of the members of the educational system, when we seek to develop it, we should develop all aspects that have direct or indirect impact on it, as it must, when determining elements of the curriculum, be sure that these elements are really important elements in building the curriculum in order to achieve its objective. There are 4 basic, integrated, and independent elements upon which the educational curriculum is based. They must be taken into account when planning the curriculum.
العنصر الأول الأهداف التربوية، وتعتبر نقطة البداية لمشروع تخطيط المنهج التربوي، حيث يتم على ضوئها اختيار محتوى المنهج وطرق التدريس وأساليب التقييم، كما أنها تعتبر المحصلة النهائية للعملية التربوية والأساس لكل نشاط تربوي والمرشد للعاملين في حقل المناهج الدراسية من حيث اختيار المحتوى وطرق التدريس وأساليب التقييم، فضلا عن تحديد التوجه العام لمكونات المنهج وتنظيماته.
The first one is the components of the curriculum. يعني أستاذ ما عملت التفسير لهذه كلها، ممكن نتوقف هنا ثم بعد ذلك نمشي التوصيات.
النتائج والتوصيات.
أوكي.
أولا النتائج، لقد خلص البحث إلى النتائج الآتية: مطالبة الأنظمة التربوية في أفريقيا إعادة التفكير في تخطيط مناهجها الدراسية لمواكبة التطورات العصرية والمستجدات التربوية. المجتمع هو الأساس الذي يجب أن تنطلق منه الأهداف التربوية للمنهج. عدم توافق المنهج للحقائق الاجتماعية يؤدي إلى عدم نجاحه لتحقيق الأهداف المرجوة منه. التلاؤم بين طرق التدريس والمحتوى عامل أساسي لتنمية قدرات المتعلمين واستعداداتهم. التقويم وسيلة للتحكم على فاعلية العملية التربوية وخطوة أساسية لعملية التغيير والتطوير التربوي. التقويم المبني على أسس علمية سليمة هو الوسيلة لتحديد نجاح المنهج التربوي في تحقيق أهدافه.
شكرا.
ثانيا التوصيات. دعوت الأنظمة التربوية إلى تعديل مناهجها التربوية تلبية لمتطلبات العصر. مشاركة هيئات التدريس والمجتمع المدني والمنظمات الدولية في تخطيط المنهج وإعداده. إعداد المنهج وفقا للحقائق الاجتماعية المحلية والمستجدات التربوية العالمية. تحديد أهداف المنهج بطريقة تتناسب مع القيم والمبادئ الاجتماعية. تخطيط المنهج على الأسس الفلسفية والاجتماعية والنفسية والمعرفية للمجتمع. إعداد المعلمين بطريقة تتماشى مع المستجدات التربوية والمفهوم الحديث للمنهج. تنظيم محتوى المنهج بما يتناسب مع معارف ومهارات المتعلم وإمكاناته العقلية والجسمية. والسلام عليكم. Thank you.
Thank you. شكرا.
Thank you very much, Musa Yusuf Adam. Though we did not hear the last part of the translation, but hopefully that was like thanking or something like that. Let's give him a round of applause. So now it's time for us to ask any questions to any of the participants. You simply indicate the name. We have Mr. Eladam. Eladam? Elmar. Mr. Elmar, we have Subira and then Adam. So you can ask any question. Any questions from the audience? We shall take a maximum of 2 per individual. Maybe others don't have 2, but let's take 6 questions. 3. I'm being guided that it should be 3 in the interest of time. So we shall have number 1, number 2. Can I have a lady? Okay, number 3 over there. So let's start with Malawi here. Someone with a microphone. Can someone help us with a microphone over here? We need the sound in the microphone. You tell us your name, country, and then the question, kindly.
My name is Austin Kalambo from Malawi. My question goes to the ELMAT, the Special Needs Education. First of all, I would like to appreciate for the strides that we made in the special needs education. But my question is, when you are developing materials for SEN, do you develop concurrently with other materials, or you wait and develop at the end so that maybe you make an adaptation? I just want to learn from your experience. Do these two go together, or the other one awaits the other?
Okay, thank you very much. I want to believe that ELMAT has taken care of the question. You've conceptualized it, right? Okay. Let's have the second question.
Thank you. My name is Dickens from the Kenya National Examinations Council. Mine is not really a question, but a comment on what Mr. Songe presented. I feel that it would be unfair for us to leave this room having a presentation on the curriculum, the milestones that KICD has made in terms of the curriculum for learners with disabilities without mentioning assessment. I would like to say that at the Kenya National Examinations Council, we have conceptualized assessment of learners with disabilities as per the basic education curriculum framework. Now, as you might have heard, that the learners with disabilities who follow the regular curriculum with adaptation. So for such kind of learners, we adapt their assessments. Then the learners with the severe disabilities that affect their cognition, that are in the stage-based pathway, we normally develop their separate assessments that are performance-based. And these performance-based assessments are tasks that are geared towards independence, communication, and vocational skills. Secondly, in the assessments, we also evaluate to what extent have they achieved the core competencies and core values, as well as the new thing in the house that is community service learning. We assess them in community, rolling out e-assessments. We have done it in teacher training colleges. We have also done a pilot with learners with disabilities, and the feedback is quite good. We hope that sooner or later we will now be able to assess our learners with disabilities through the online platform. And lastly, I also wish to mention that NEC, KICD, TAC, and other state agencies, we have partnered to retool teachers of learners with disabilities on how to construct competency-based assessment tools, especially for use in formative assessment and the classroom assessments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dickens, for that supplement on the presentation by ELMAT. I hope I'm right. Let's have the last question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mine is maybe not a question, but
Your
a
name,
comment.
kindly.
Oh, sorry. I'm Dr. Ruth Otieno. I'm from. It's true that CBC has given prominence to special needs education, and we carried out a study in one of the counties country on special needs issues, and one of the things that we found out right. So, but there are these children who can actually go to school. They have special needs, but they're not in school. So I know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Oh, my apologies, Doctor. I think now it's clear. So let's invite, I think all the questions are geared towards ELMAT. So let's invite Elmad to clarify on those issues. Elmad, you have the podium.
Okay. Thank you, because it seems special needs education is going to the hearts of many, and that's our hope and prayer. The first question about how do we develop the curriculum or support materials, we take different approaches. One, just to make sure that there is equality and similarity in what the other learners are learning and what learners with special needs are learning. We do what we call adaptation. Immediately, the other curriculum or the material is developed. So if they finish on a Saturday, we might be on a Monday begin to adapt that curriculum. But we also have materials where we don't need to wait learners in the stage-based curriculum which we presented. But there are serious talks and push that we need to support materials concurrently with the curriculum developed for the ordinary learners, provided we have identified the parameters. So that's where we want to move, and I believe we shall reach there. I wanted just to confirm that what has been raised by Dickens from NEC is true, that we work together to make sure that assessment is also differentiated. And in our paper, we just indicated that the kind of assessment that the competence-based assessment is actually taking care of each and every learner, including learners with special needs. So we will do work together to develop those assessments. I want to agree with Ruth that there are so many learners with special needs who may go to school. They have ability to go to school, but they're still out there. In our presentation, you saw where we indicated that we want to develop teacher education curriculum and programs, so that one of the ideas we want to sell to this country is that we need what we call itinerant teachers who work in a jurisdiction to be able to mop up such kind of learners. They are registered in the school that is near their home, and they're able to support every teacher that is there to support these learners. Because some of the fears that make these learners stay at home is that, one, the parents feel that the school that is in the neighborhood may not be able to take care of that child. And also, number two, to enroll such learners. So once we have this, what we call itinerant teacher, they're able to advocate, to train and work with those teachers and with the parents of the community, so that these learners can be enrolled in the nearby school. So that's our thinking for future. So we hope that this shall be embraced. So thank you.
Let's give a round of applause to our presenters. Thank you very much, our presenters. And with that, I would like to take the honor of handing over to the manager or director of program. Thank you very much. You're free to leave.
Thank you, thank you. Let's appreciate the team for a wonderful work well done as they leave the podium. That is Dr. Bernadette, Madam Subira, Mr. Elmand, and Mr. Moussa. And on that note, we now have a tea break. A tea break for 20 minutes. And I'm told that there are many who had questions that they wanted asked. So kindly write down the questions, and you can give with your email address so that we can respond to. And you give to any of the ushers so that we'll be able to respond to the questions that we didn't have time to respond to in the plenary. So kindly, tea is served. Now the time now is 1 minute past 11. So at 20 minutes past 11, we should be back for the second theme, and then we'll continue with the program. So Kindly, you're welcome for tea. And as you go for tea, there's a booth here that has some brochure on senior secondary. It elaborates more on what Madam Subira had presented. So you're welcome. Welcome for tea, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
With their colleagues, so the collegiality is missing. There is a call for teachers to work together as a team and lack of administrative support. In conclusion and recommendation, I conclude by saying, or it is concluded that school environment has a moderating effect on the relationship between the systematic pedagogical approaches and physics teacher effectiveness. Now, what do I recommend? The study recommends that for physics teacher improvement, the school environment should be improved first. Whether we are talking about the competence-based curriculum, the objective curriculum, we must improve the school environment to ease that implementation. So in order to improve school environment, teachers should create appropriate environment present new thoughts. In this case, creating standards of administrative support, exercise collegiality. I look at by law, because the KICD region has some districts, so per district, why can't they pass bylaws that compel all heads of schools to start conducting professional seminars, workshops, conferences, so that teachers also benefit professionally. Then finally, teachers of physics within KICD sub-region should form strong association and register it according to Ugandan rules, so that they enable them to get united, get disciplined and discipline others, so that they gain confidence and the collegiality is exercised. With their colleagues, the collegiality is missing. There is a call for teachers to work together as a team and lack of administrative support. In conclusion and recommendation, I conclude by saying, though it is concluded that school environment has a moderating effect on the relationship between the systematic pedagogical approaches and physics teacher effectiveness. Now, what do I recommend? The study recommends that for physics teacher improvement, the school
Thank you very much for that presentation, Evaristo. He has presented that presentation online. I think he deserves a clap for that very good presentation. Thank you very much. Our PS, our council members, CEO KICD, we are making some of the presentations within the program. We are under the sub-theme of technologies in learning, and we have several presenters lined up to do these presentations. We have just had one presentation, which was on the Zoom sessions in distance learning, and the effects of the environment to pedagogical effectiveness in the teaching learning process. We have other presentations lined up. Some of them are online, others will be physical. The group from CIMASTER, the Center for Mathematics and Science in Eastern Africa, is online, ready to do a presentation on the coding in middle school, first-hand experiences of Kenyan teachers.
As you are well aware, that digital literacy is one of the core competencies within the competency-based curriculum. And for us, or for our learners to acquire this competence, then they require what we call the digital skills. One of the skills then that is required is the coding skill, which is a digital skill. And that is why this report by Simastea is very critical, because it has undertaken a study on the teaching of coding in middle school in Kenya. So they are going to share with us the experiences of teachers and learners in line with what they would want or what they would wish if coding is to be taught in schools. And as an institute, as Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, these are very critical recommendations for us, because they guide on how we need to review our curriculums in ensuring that we mainstream coding in our curriculum. I hope the Simastea team is ready to make that presentation, the IT. Okay, so we have a group of 5 presenters, but I think it's one of them presenting online. Yes, Mercy, Dr. Mercy Masharia, Edmond Makoba, Martin Mungai, Philip Mate, and Paul Waivoshi are part of this report. Mercy, you can begin your presentation. We are only giving you 10 minutes maximum, please. Thank you. And for us, of our learners to acquire this competence, then they require what we call the digital skills.
It's coming.
One of the skills then that is required. School in Kenya. So they are going to share with us the experiences of teachers and learners in line with what they want or what they wish if coding is to be taught in school. And as an institute, as Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, these are very critical recommendations for us. Sorry for that interruption. I think there is an overlap. If we are not able to sort that issue right now, I
have been in the reform of this sector, and that it is why I'm very interested in this topic. In my presentation, we will see a short introduction. We will talk about also importance of early childhood education. We have the situation of early education in Africa, case of Chad, because Chad is my country I know very well. We have influence of family and social-cultural environments on early learning, the roles of daycare, preschool, kindergarten, the role early childhood literacy, art and communication, early childhood numeracy and science, and perspective. And we'll finish as usual by the conclusion. In the introduction, we say that early childhood education encompasses a variety of child care and education programs for young children and their parents. For a few decades, early childhood education has been a universal concept. This concept is proved by the different declarations. As you see some here, we talk about, for example, the Convention of the Right of child case, the World Declaration on Education for All in Johnson in Thailand in 1990, the World Forum of Education held in 2000 in Dakar, Senegal, Education of Moscow in September, that leads action commitment for the transformation of early education care and education. In terms of physical, cognition, social, emotional, language, and moral capacities through the interaction of young children with their social and physical, and develop skills in many other areas. Now to my country, African countries, and talking about Chad ECE coverage is the last education sector with 6% principle, again made by Chadian Parliament, that show that the gross rate was 50 school and 461 for private school. But we have the hope, those who around us. It is said that I have 5 minutes, it is to very fast. We have also the role of preschool and kindergarten. Here we jump early child communication. The development of language is manipulating object here and they interact, and in the interaction they can communicate and they develop their language. Early childhood numeracy, because most of them mystify their subject. And we think that when we introduce mathematics, science, and technology in preschool, we can maybe find also this the solution. When here the effect of air, when you see, for example, in this photo, and also I assist for the development of this sector. During the conference stated different recommendations. Those who are teaching in preschool are not qualified. This is a problem. And we have also the curriculum and other instructional textbook, as I say, to success and substantial budget to the sector as suggested. Very important in the physical. However, this evidence
for that, a big applause again. We are
pendant longtemps. Mais le constat un peu amer, je crois que mon collègue du Niger en a parlé hier. Pour les francophones,
we are saying that participants, we are really disadvantaged. For example, at a slower pace so that translations can be done effectively.
Enfin, je voudrais dire que l'opprimé, il faut que la voix de l'oppresseur se fasse entendre.
As sector will take full responsibility on behalf of KICD of Education and our principal state secretary, State Department of Basic Education were out of the country, but we are privileged to have the principal secretary, State Department for Basic Education, and because we don't want to miss the opportunity to listen to the wise counsel that he always does give us, we are making a special request that we shall go through the closing ceremony, but that does not mean the conference has ended. Are we together? We still have presenters who are going to do this, about 4 or 5 presenters, and once we finish this, we'll go back into our conference mode, and yes, we shall wind up fully fair to everybody. So at this time, I want our guests are led by my CEO. The choir, please come and give us your number.
at KICD. Gloria, if we are ready, then we can take off. We need to increase the pace, please. Thank you very much to the team. I should have called upon us to start at the beginning of that song. Our Principal Secretary, with humility, I would like to request that you lead the team to join us at the podium. The Director team, the Chair, and the other members of ACA. Kindly join us at the podium so that we can be able to go through our closing ceremony. On Monday, I did ask that as we stood, you're able to say hello to at least 3 people. I don't know how, but I'll spare it because I can see people's faces. They don't remember who they greeted on Monday. Council, our representative from ACA, who is actually our Secretary General, appeared to, but he will be joining us shortly. We want to thank you very extremely humbled that you are able to find the time and come for this closing session for us. One, to just briefly introduce the people who are able to join us during this session of the 4th ACA curriculum. We want to close the ceremony. So ladies and gentlemen, again, as we did on the first day, I will ask that as I recognize, so that we can just be able to see you. We are aware that some of us may not be here today, but for those who are here, kindly, I request that we will either just stand to have the PS, kindly. We are being with us here on Monday and left on Tuesday for an assignment in Tanzania. We were also privileged to open the workshop for us, and so I am acknowledging and introducing the fact that they were here with us. We were also privileged to have Dr. organizing team for the CESA cluster of the African Union for Curriculum. And so they sent a representative to be with us. We were also privileged to have this period. We had His Excellency Sheikh Mansour bin Musallam, who is the Secretary General of the Organization of Education Cooperation. This is able to come, but I would like to introduce the 2 of us who are here, and that is myself and Dr. Gertrude. We do have the directors from the Ministry of Education representatives. Kindly identify yourselves so that we can acknowledge you. David, you may want to translate so that if you have the French speaking to be able to stand up, please.
Différents pays de l'Afrique. Et si vous êtes l'un de ces directeurs-là, on vous demande de vous lever pour qu'on puisse vous voir.
So, sir, these are the fulcrum. Let's speed up, please. Just let us know.
Bonjour, moi c'est Camille Servedine. Merci, je suis Goli Lazare, inspecteur général de l'éducation nationale en Côte d'Ivoire.
Côte d'Ivoire, so he's the Secretary General of curriculum in Côte d'Ivoire. And also he's in charge of
Omot Okuny Olok, the Director General for National Curriculum Development Center, Republic of South Sudan.
Bonjour, merci. Moi, je m'appelle Babri Keledou. Babri Keledou. Je sais que c'est pas courant chez vous, même que ça n'existe pas, c'est pas très courant. Et les évaluations. Merci.
So he is the Director General of Pedagogy in Mali. So in his docket, there are quite a number of things that he does.
Of Education, representing the Executive Director of the Institute. Thank you.
My name is Charles Amondo.
Because this is their conference. We also had CEOs from various National Examinations Council, Kenya's Institute of Special Education. I know we had SEPU and we had Semastea online. We also had representation of the professional bodies, KESHA, EPSHA, Kenya we had. Thank you. That is Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association. We had we were graced to have a Libuyetu coalition that was led by Mr. Joseph Wasiongo and Madam Magdalene. Thank you very much, Sylvia. We had exhibitors. Sir, you have been able to see the exhibitions, all exhibitors or representatives of the exhibition. Thank you very much. Sir, allow me then now to just quickly call out the countries that were represented. Yes? Joost, Laikipia, Multimedia University, Cooperative University, Kenyatta University, Moi University, Kaimosi Friends, to just present to you then the different countries. And again, we shall ask that if we call out your country, please be kind enough to stand up. We start with Benin. To be able to respond, I want to believe that if they don't stand, then they were the team that was online. Burundi, I know we had the CEO of online. Gambia, also online. Ghana was largely with the team that was with the minister, but we are expecting the head of the curriculum. That should tell you my age. And my apologies for that, but thank you. Madam, I hope she can hear her country name. Liberia, Malawi. We had somebody online. Tanzania, South Sudan, the country out before. Sierra Leone, I don't know why I'm thinking you're Lesotho. That's why I said, Madam, stand up. I'm so sorry. And amongst the many delegates would be the Kenyan team. Tuko wapi? We are the people in the tusimame. And sir, we are indicating that all of these people should actually be members of ACA. We can't host and then we don't join. Thank you very much. Please, sir, because we already had given you the program and so that I don't take too much time, this was a 3-day conference that began on Monday and will be ending today. Tomorrow, a brief on what it is that we do as ACA. But beginning Monday, we had a full day of plenary action where we had keynote speeches, ICBA, UNESCO ICBA, and on the day 2, again, we did have a keynote address from our CEO and broke away into and learning. educational organization and leadership, early childhood learning, and the seventh was technologies in learning. And looking at the sub-themes that we did have, we know that these discussions we are having are dear to your heart because you are the lead when you allowed us to be able to learn from various countries, both by being built capacity, but more so by even allowing us to visit so that we could benchmark and see what we needed to do for this country. So ladies and gentlemen, having done the task that has been given to me, I would like to now invite our Director and CEO of KICD, Professor Charles Ongondo, so that he can pick up from where I've left and guide us through the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Jacqueline Onyango, our Principal Secretary, State Department of Basic Education, the Chair of the African Curriculum Association, represented here by Dr. Gertrude Namubiru, our very own Chair of the KICD Council, Professor Elisheba Kimani, all delegates. God is good, all the time. And all the time. That is his nature. Wow, wow, wow. I want PS in your presence to profusely thank Madam Jacqueline Onyango, our Senior Deputy Director, Basic Education Curriculum Development. She has been chairing the the conference committee, especially the one based here, and I've seen her walk her legs out. At some point, she even had to use a crutch to make sure that this happened. And so allow me, as we clap for her, to clap for her jointly with all of you who served in the conference organization committee. Please rise. All of you in this room who are in the conference organization committee, clap for them. Some of them may be out there considering whether we shall have another cocktail or not. PS, in your presence, allow me to recognize a team that has made this conference extremely lively. We are nurturing a KICD choir so that, sir, we can lead from the front. Members of the choir who are in the room, please rise so that we can clap for you in a befitting way. Yes, thank you. Yes. PSR, as you know, performing arts, which includes theater, music, and film, is now squarely in the curriculum, and indeed one of the tracks in the arts and sports pathway. We are just trying to practice what we preach by having a vibrant choir. They don't just sing here, they compete in the festival, and we have a big trophy that they brought from the National Festival last year. This year, again, we are taking them to Nyeri for the Kenya Music Festival, and we have no doubt, because the trainer has all the marking schemes. Madam Gloria Sungu, where's Gloria? Yes, she's a curriculum development officer in charge of music, but also a national facilitator and adjudicator. We touched her from Malava Boys. Thank you, PS. So that I do not speak after just two people I'll invite to make a few remarks. PS, allow me to really thank again the organization of the African Curriculum Association for choosing Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and indeed Kenya, to host this conference. PS, as you know, this institute is unique. We are both an academic institution to the extent that what we prescribe to Kenyans as a curriculum has to be informed by a lot of research, literature review, and international benchmarking. but we are also a state agency serving the government of Kenya. So it's extremely important that we are conversant with what is going on in education in the world, but particularly education in Africa. And this was a significant opportunity. Imagine, PS, if I had to ask you for permission to allow me to sponsor all the curriculum development officers from KICD to go to this conference. So I was able to sponsor them to be here. So we have paid their participation fees, but we saved a lot from the per diems we would have been able to pay. So that the PS knows how the CEO can sponsor so many people to a conference. All KICD people who participated, can you please rise up? Imagine I sponsored all these PS. Please give them a hand. And they didn't just participate, PS, we were able to put, in KICD alone, about 10 papers to share our experiences so that we could get input from other participants. So this was an opportunity, but most importantly, sir, we are trying to get all our members to be active participants in international associations so that then they are able to bring on board critical international practices. So to that extent, we are very grateful. PS, the next thing I want to mention, and I did say this in your absence, is that the curriculum development process involves navigating several multiple integrated contexts. Among them, I was able to share the need to work very closely with other institutions, other administrative organs, and especially to recognize how the curriculum approval process is upwards. And I did mention in your absence, sir, that in Kenya, we are lucky that the principal secretary that we report to is an educator. And I did say this is extremely critical and we don't take for granted. He's an experienced educator. He was, maybe he'll tell you, a teacher of business studies, although when we were going through the booths, he mentioned to me that at some point he also taught agriculture. And so to that extent, he has been able to participate as a teacher himself in curriculum development processes, in assessment processes, and even in examination. Then he has also served in different sectors in education. And as PS, I was mentioning that sometimes what my staff do not know is when I bring to you curriculum designs for approval, you take a pen and you take us through every stage, and you are even able to ask about essence statements, about expected learning outcomes, and go through the content. So the foreword that you write is not just a matter of adding your signature. As colleagues, curriculum development officers from other countries, the importance of this is then you have a gain, a direct gain from an officer above all the other sagas who has that big picture of the entire spectrum and is able to give you a lot of times aspects that we may not have thought about as curriculum developers. But I want to say that the PS is also very accessible. He has made it possible for us to consult him. A lot of us in this institute work sometimes 24/7, especially when the curriculum development process is so intense. The PS has made it possible for us to be able to develop curricula. It is resource intensive. Sometimes it involves him lobbying other sectors. Sometimes it involves him lobbying other funders, the World Bank and other projects to be able to get us to do these projects. So let's put a hand together for our Principal Secretary for that support. And sir, finally, in your presence, I want to put it on record that as an institute, we have developed curriculum designs for the entire basic education.
the Principal Secretary for the State Publishers Association, and the other publishers who are present, ACA chairperson represented by the representatives. We have our very precious delegates from all the countries respectively observed. Our Principal Secretary, sir, we welcome you to KICD for the opening ceremony, and it gives me very great pleasure to join you today for this closing ceremony. Above all, that all of you have enjoyed our hospitality at the Splendor of Kenya. I'm joined by some of the KICD Council members who are present to the Council, but also our CEO, because he is the one who oversees day-to-day running, and therefore without him, we will have nothing to oversight. So those are the members of the Council. Those are the members of the Council who diligently oversees the functions of this institute, very honored and very humbly providing the service. Sir, we have two apologies from two members of the Council who are so very critical. One of them is Mr. Gabriel Madenge, who represents the Chief Executive Officer, Teacher Service Commission, and Dr. David Nyengele, Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya National Examination Council. We have their apologies because they are engaged elsewhere in very important national duties. As I conclude, sir, I wish to really appreciate the opportunity that we were given to host this conference. It is an honor, and I'm hoping that all the delegates have really enjoyed our hospitality. And I'm also requesting Secretary General ACA, Madam Gertrude, that we could do it again next year if given the opportunity. Principal Secretary, sir, this conference program was very, very rich, and the choice of the theme, Learning for Sustainable Futures, could not have come at a better time than now, when Kenya as a nation, we are reviewing our CBC curriculum, so that then as part of the deliberations for this conference, we are able to examine ourselves, reflect on what we are doing, so that we can best connect the curriculum to cognition and context. So with those very few remarks, sir, I wish to really appreciate the honor and very humbly the privilege to have been hosting this conference. And with those, I thank you so much, the delegates. I thank you so much, sir, for finding time to come and oversee our closing ceremony. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, our Council Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point now, I want to invite the Chair of the African Curriculum Association, represented by Dr. Gertrude Namubiru. This basically is an ACA conference. KICD was just hosting. So you will be able to tell the peers what ACA is, what the conference was about, and you might also mention whether you think we are good hosts.
Definitely you are. Principal Secretary, State Department for Basic Education, Chairperson of KICD Council, CEO, KICD, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so privileged to stand before you to take you through our journey as African Curriculum Association. How did we start? During the conference in Uganda on curriculum for sustainable learning, the delegates that were present in that conference agreed to revive African curriculum organization that existed in the 1970s, and because of the unforeseen circumstances, it collapsed. But because it had good intentions, members decided to revive it, but with a new name because of fear of copyright issues. That's why we baptized it ACA, African Curriculum Association. The association is a registered continental organization, registered under the laws of Uganda, because that's where we have the secretariat. The organization focuses on curriculum development, implementation, and assessment as its core mandate to improve the quality of education in Africa. As I've already said, the secretariat is in Uganda, and it is housed at our National Curriculum Development Center, where I work as a curriculum specialist in charge of mathematics. ACA's vision is to ensure a relevant, transformative curriculum for Africa through its mission of stimulating and strengthening the work of curriculum development, research, and evaluation in all African countries towards a common education agenda. ACA serves as an umbrella that brings together all curriculum and the other education practitioners to discuss and deliberate on issues concerning curriculum in Africa. At the first conference that was held in Uganda, the interim committee was selected to spearhead and kickstart the creation of the Secretariat of ACA. The team originally comprised of 5 people from 5 member states or from 5 countries, that is Uganda, Namibia, Ghana, Kenya, and Tanzania. No, Tanzania was not inclusive by that time, but it joined us later. These were Mrs. Frisia Boache Idiom from Ghana, Mr. Maurice Nkusi from Namibia, Dr. Grace Baguma from Uganda, Mrs. Jacqueline Onyango from Kenya, and Dr. Gertrude Namubiru from Uganda. We are later on joined by Professor Paul Mush from Tanzania, Mr. Julius Nuhu from Cameroon, and Dr. Ali Korel from Chad. Dr. Grace Baguma was elected as the interim chairperson of the committee, deputized by Mrs. Aboche, who later on handed over to Dr. Korel as the deputy chairperson. Dr. Gertrude Namubiru was given a responsibility of coordinating and growing the association in addition to heading the secretariat And I think I've really tried my best. That's why you are here. So Mr. Maurice Nkusi was entrusted with the responsibility of developing and maintaining the website, and later was fully selected to help the Secretariat as an advisor. ACA's aim is to stimulate and strengthen the work of curriculum development, research, and evaluation through support for informed policy dialogue on curriculum processes towards a harmonized Afrocentric curriculum across the African region. And on this note, I want to report that I wrote the first paper on the relevance of Afrocentric curriculum, and I submitted it to African Union, and it was considered as one of the papers that can be referred to as we try to harmonize the African curriculum. Objectives of ACA. Oh, okay. At least let me read one objective. To assist member countries to strengthen their national curriculum centers through international best practices, and also to help the countries without curriculum centers to develop or to create the curriculum centers, because curriculum is the heart for education development. So the countries without curriculum centers, we are here to assist. ACA as a curriculum cluster. We are lucky that all members of African Curriculum Association are coordinators of the curriculum cluster at African Union. So in December 2018, ACA was designated by the African Union and member states who were in attendance with the exclusive responsibility of coordinating the newly established African Union curriculum cluster. And as a cluster, we carry out many activities which I will not go through. But among the things we have done, we have created collaborations with the different organizations. One of them is the African Union through our cluster. We also created collaborations with the OEC, that is Organization of Education Cooperation, now referred to as Organization of South Cooperation. In that regard, ACA is an associate member to that organization and also collaborates with the association in building capacity. We also collaborate with IBE, that is International Bureau of Education, UNESCO, in matters concerning curriculum development and capacity building. We also collaborate with ICIBA, that is International Institute of Capacity Building in Africa, and they have promised to publish our papers. The papers we present at different conferences, they are going to help us publish them. Though we also have our first journal, African Curriculum Association journal, uploaded on our website. So we also built collaborations with ETF, that is Education Training Foundation. And the main objective of this collaboration was to help us to map the curriculum frameworks and also the practices for curriculum centers with an intention of coming up with an African continental curriculum framework, the framework that can guide all of us as we reform our curricula. I am happy to report that the first phase is done, the report is out, and handed over to African Union. We are yet to contact you again for the second phase. This is the organization that is that is carrying out what? I'm forgetting. It is African Continental Qualification Framework. And because ACA doesn't have money, they decided to help us carry out the survey. And our survey is tagged to their survey. So soon we are going to do that. Membership of ACA. Membership is open to all curriculum centers, research and education networks in the area of curriculum development and related fields. Membership is also open to education institutions, organizations, and individuals. So you are all welcome to join African Curriculum Association, and we build Africa together. Africa is our continent. So we should work together to ensure that we get the Africa we want to see. The organizations or the countries are already, the countries already subscribed with ACA include Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, Chad, South Africa, Niger, Gambia, Nigeria, Lesotho, Bromson, Rwanda Curriculum Association, Uwezo Uganda, Ghana, South Sudan, Tiveta Malawi, Cote d'Ivoire, Malawi I have already mentioned, then World Council for Curriculum in Nigeria, then Congo Brazzaville. These are organizations. Individuals are many, we are about 100, but for organizations. So we still call upon you as organizations to join the Association for Sustainability. Otherwise, individuals will not sustain the association. Yeah, our next conference, we are most likely the person is around. Most likely we are going to take it to Cote d'Ivoire. But he can take us through the preparations they have already done. So on that note, I take this opportunity to thank our own strong lady, Jacqueline Onyango, for spearheading the preparation of the 4th Continental Conference on Curriculum. Allow me also to thank the government of Kenya through KICD. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, the government of Kenya, through the KICD, under the leadership of Professor Charles Ongond, for hosting the conference. I'm sorry if I have not pronounced it well, for hosting the conference and welcoming us. We are feeling at home. Yeah, I thank the African Union for the travel support for African Association executive members and for gracing the conference. Unfortunately, our members were not able to make it because of the visa restrictions in Kenya. But otherwise, African Union gave us 8 tickets to come to the conference from these different countries. But most of our people have not made it just because of the visa. So we ask Kenya maybe help us do something on that. I thank the Honorable Minister of Ghana, Dr. Yahu Osei, who also doubles as our patron, for setting the conference agenda and accepting to be our patron. We know that for him to be a patron of ACA, we already have all countries on board. I thank also the delegates for attending the 4th Continental Conference, and I call upon all of you to pay your annual subscription fees to join ACA, more especially the curriculum centers. That's when we shall get the sustainability. And this conference, the fees are payable every year. It is not a one-off, but every year. I thank the keynote speakers and the paper presenters for sharing their intellectual expertise with us, without which ACA would be meaningless, and this conference would be meaningless. So, as I conclude, I would like to assure you that within the shortest time, we shall be able to send you the communique for the 4th Continental Conference as soon as it is ready. I wish you journey masses back home, and I would like to inform all subscribed members that we shall have our assembly tomorrow, and thereafter we shall go into the preparations for electing new members. I thank you very much for giving me the trust for the 4 years. This is our 4th Continental Conference. We started in Uganda, we organized another one in Ghana, another one in Gambia, and this is the 4th. The 5th will be in Cote d'Ivoire, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Namubiru, and sorry, I had to stand up to try to hurry you up. One of the things you learn to do is to read the body language of your boss and learn when he may be under pressure to move to another event. And so sitting next to my boss, I was able to suggest to myself that he is likely to be in a hurry to attend another function. But Dr. Namubiru has said 3 things that I think we can take away. At the university where PSI, you have a background under it as well, you must belong to an international professional association. It earns you promotion points. And KICD, I want to suggest that I fear Council is soon going to approve that becomes one of the conditions for your promotion, because I have to justify why I had to pay for you to be here. The next thing my colleagues from the universities know, being able to participate in a conference alone without even presenting a paper is always 1 mark when you are looking for a promotion. But if you manage to present a paper, it is 5 marks. And for us professors who are not looking for any more papers, that is the only way you can demonstrate that you are professing knowledge. And so that becomes extremely critical. But even more important, PSI, you know, as an academic yourself, that among academics, the statement is publish or perish. If you want to make it positive, you say publish to prosper. And academics who are here, if 2 years pass without you being read, then people start to ask whether you shouldn't be looking for another profession. So with those remarks, PS, kindly convey our greatest appreciation to the Cabinet Secretary, who was able to send a representative to read his speech. A couple of announcements, because I will not do this after the PS has finished. One, the PS has kindly accepted to have a group photograph with the following groups. The members of the KICD Council, the KPA Council, and the CEOs of curriculum development organizations from the rest of Africa. Where a CEO is not present, let's have a representation from the other countries that are here. This will take place, and also from the representatives of the vice chancellors. So that will take place in front of the KICD steps so that we can account for that. With those remarks now, members from other countries, in this country, when you want to invite a guest of honor, you start by giving him a standing ovation in advance. A standing ovation means you start clapping as if you are so reluctant to do so, you gain momentum as you do. By the time you are most upright standing, that's where you are loudest. And you remain standing until, at his own pleasure, he might say, please be seated. So, can we please get started?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether you are to stand, but now that you're done, you may decide to either continue or sit. But because you are not supposed to stand in the first place, I think you should sit. So thank you very much. So once again, thank you. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome those of us who have come from other member countries, and also appreciate and acknowledge the good choir that was there and who gave us a song. And appreciate the Minister for Education for Ghana, in absentia, who is the patron of the association. I know he has a lot of interest, a lot of passion on issues curriculum. 3-4 years ago, he was here as our guest when we had our own curriculum conference. Then he was the Deputy Minister for Education. So in absentia, we would want to most sincerely acknowledge and appreciate his contribution towards curriculum development in the continent. The chair of council of this particular association, represented today by the Secretary General, the chair of KICD, the CEO, and the entire council, the CEOs present, representatives from our universities, delegates, our good friends from the Fourth Estate. Once again, I would want to and appreciate the good work that the association is doing. From what the Secretary General has said, and more so that we are developing an African framework, curriculum framework, because it is so important. And also from the onset, on behalf of government, we regret the challenges that you may have faced when you are getting the visa, and that makes some of the critical aspects. As we do our framework on the curriculum, I think we should, as governments, be looking forward to a day that you wake up in the morning and you can be able to fly to any of our African countries without so much restrictions. Because it is so important that we start appreciating, acknowledging what it is that we are able to do for ourselves, and that is why having a common curriculum framework is very important. So once again, I would want to assure you that the next conference that we shall have, you will not have trouble in arriving in this beautiful country of ours. I would also want to, from the onset, say that it is so important that we share our common agenda, the African-centric ways of doing things. And as we all know, education is the future. And as we nurture the young ones, we are nurturing the existence of our countries and the existence of our continent and the existence of the globe. And therefore, while we were in the Education World Forum in London in May, the African education ministers had an opportunity of meeting. And as part of creating a framework that will be able to guide ourselves in a way that we appreciate and acknowledge the common agenda, the common direction, the common challenges, and the common way in which we would want to get solutions to our African challenges. The African Curriculum Association and the meeting that we have had today creates a critical stepping stones towards the Education African Forum. So this is so important because it gives us an opportunity to start learning how we should. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm delighted to join you this afternoon as the curtains fall on the 4th African Curriculum Association Conference that KICD has been able to successfully host. And I want to say that this conference marks a significant milestone in educational and curriculum development in Africa. And once again, I would want to thank Uganda for hosting the first one and giving the instrument for this particular conference, for this particular association to be in existence, and that it is anchored on the Ugandan laws. And therefore, you've done what is so important for our children and ourselves. And as I say this, just as constitutions are so important for the existence of countries, curriculum is central for the way in which we'll inculcate knowledge to ourselves and our children. And therefore, having this association is so important. It is just as important that we have African Union, because it brings together countries that have a central instrument called a constitution. And this African Curriculum Association brings us together, having curricula as countries, and curricula is what guides us as we impart knowledge, and as we guide, and as we co-create the future through our children. So once again, thank you very much. Holding this conference in Kenya, particularly in this time, is so important. As you may be aware, and maybe was part of the discussion, that we are currently rolling out a new curriculum, the competence-based education. And also, the team that is here and the Kenyan team may have mentioned to you that currently we have what we call the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform that has just completed its work, and it's due to present a report to the president of the country, who is the appointing authority of this particular very important working party. Because it's so important that it is guiding us on the direction and the trajectory that we would want to take as a country. And African Curriculum Association would have been a very critical partner in this process. And I want to believe that it was, because this is the only way we learn from ourselves. You know, sometimes we talk of best practice. But how best is the practice? How do we adopt it better to suit ourselves? So, as we move forward, and as members of the association, we should be more available to ourselves, because so many of us as countries and as members, because curriculum is living, and that it always goes through the various reforms, the various reviews, then the association becomes so central. It becomes a depository of knowledge that will be able to assist our member countries in doing some of the reforms and reviews that we must do every other time. And I would want to assure you, as a country, we've been able to implement and adopt some of the recommendations, either as interim recommendations, as we move forward. And we would want to avail ourselves so that we do not need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to see how to adjust it to fit our environment. And as a country, we shall always be available so that we can be able to guide and support as you as members also go through the same exercise, go through the same things that we have gone through. And I would want to assure you that we are confident as a country that this particular working party report, which will be officially launched very soon, will be able to assist us in the implementation of the competence-based education and take us in the right trajectory. I must point out that all these reforms in our country are carried out in line with our Constitution, which provides for an inclusive, equitable, and quality education, as well as promotion of lifelong learning for all. Indeed, as already maybe has been mentioned, Article 53 of our Constitution requires us that we provide every child with compulsory basic education. Not only compulsory, but quality education. And I'm sure that in most of our countries, this is the requirement. And when we talk of compulsory quality education, quality only comes in the way that we design our curricula. And therefore, the importance of the African Curriculum Association to all of us. The theme of this particular conference has been Learning for Sustainable Futures, connection between curriculum, cognition, and context. I think we need to ask ourselves what this means to each one of us as we sit here today. What does it mean to us? And as we said, our children are the future. And therefore, as we talk about sustainable future, we are saying sustainable young ones. Because an investment in our children and investing in education is investing in the future. And therefore, what are the connections, therefore, between curriculum and that particular future? The cognition and context. So as experts in the area, I would want to believe that you must have had quite some engagement in these particular very important aspects of the way that we would want to lead into the future. And once again, I'm saying it's about the future. It is about the future. And education and all that we do is not about only what we know and the knowledge that we acquire, but so much about what we do with that knowledge. And therefore, as we go into competence-based education as a country, we are saying, yes, curriculum is not about either or. It's not about acquiring knowledge only. So it's not about knowledge. It's also about what we do with the knowledge. And sometimes there is a lot of debate, and I'm told there was a lot of it on the whole question of competence-based curriculum. And you know, in every other curriculum, you cannot exclude any other aspect. You know, it's like in our democracies. Countries sometimes petition and say, we are leading a presidential system, Others say we are in a parliamentary system. Others say we are in an hybrid system. But neither of them stands alone. A presidential system cannot stand alone without looking at what happens in the legislature, and therefore there is some fusion somewhere. So neither can we also say in curriculum that it is all about knowledge-based, it's about competencies, it's about skills alone. There is a fusion, there is always coming together, so that we can be able to say it is from what we know that we are able to do. It's about knowledge that you can apply your competencies. So, as I said, I'm told, and the director told me as early as yesterday that there was a lot of discussion that took place around the whole question of competence-based education. And it is therefore encouraging that we are looking at all these things so that we can get the proper context for us in an African setup, a way in which we would want to see and domicile that which is good for us as countries, ways in which we can have an African-centric way of looking at issues, ways in which we can be able to develop ourselves for the future, see ourselves as the center that we might be moving forward. So I would want to say that of special mention today is the number of countries that were represented. And I'm very happy, and Jacqueline has already given us the countries that were here. I would like to congratulate the organizers, and more so the African Curriculum Association, for being able to bring together all those countries that were mentioned today, and giving us an opportunity to be able to share our experience and the way in which we would want to move forward. I'm happy that these 3 days of discussions have provided rich opportunities for the delegates to share knowledge, experiences, successes, and challenges that face education sectors in the African continent. Beyond the challenges, I'm confident that you have also considered possible strategies and solutions that can collectively address the common issues that we face in the continent as we seek to advance education agenda. All of us here in today, and quite a number of those of us here in today, are experts in this area of curriculum. And therefore, I would want to say that you are the people in the kitchen. You are the people who are preparing food for our children. Our children can either be comfortable in their sleep or have challenges because we may have prepared food that's not good enough for them. We may have we may have mishandled the food that we've caused food poisoning. So we need to ask ourselves, how well have we prepared ourselves in that particular kitchen? How well have we gone out there to ensure that we have adequate training to prepare the food that we're preparing for our children? So once again, we can either make it easy and comfortable for the future and for our children, and that they have a good sleep, or we can make it difficult for them by not being adequately prepared to prepare food for them. And to prepare food that generates strong young people who will guide their communities and who will build their countries. So let's be the best of cooks in this particular kitchen so that we can make food that will ensure our children are strong and that they are comfortable. Again, I've taken note, and Jacqueline and the team that were here have told us of the themes that were covered in this particular conference that touched on curriculum, it touched on pedagogy, it touched on assessment, educational organization, leadership, learners' identity and diversity, technologies in learning, science, technology, engineering, STEM. So we have covered all that which is important to ourselves. I hope and believe that we have internalized what we covered, so that when we go back to our countries, we are able to make a difference, and that we are able to have a better direction for our people, because that is the essence, and that is the importance of who you are. You are co-creators. You are co-creators. So let's be good co-creators, because if we are co-creators, then it means we share the role of creating humanity with God. Let's do it in the way that we've been allowed to be co-creators, so that we can have a better future for all of us. And in relation to these themes and sub-themes, I'm pleased to learn that the conference reached consensus on a number of issues. Among them, that African countries should focus on designing curricula that develop learners' competencies as opposed to those which just make our learners people who just memorize for reproduction. Curricula should be responsive to the 21st century demands and promote STEM as they engage and as we engage in curriculum reform. It's so important, because the future is about what we should be able to do with the knowledge that we have acquired. The other thing that I'm told you build consensus on is that governments in Africa should ensure equal access to education and learning opportunities for all, as expunged by the SDG 4. I'm also told that you build consensus that Africa should not forget the place of indigenous knowledge and indigenous technologies in our curricula. You know, there are so many good things that we did, and so many things that we have done before. We should not forget some of these things that can make a difference in humanity. That there is need for enhanced capacity building of curriculum developers, curriculum implementers, instructional leaders, and our teachers at various levels. That curricula ought to provide a framework that caters for diversity, inclusion, and development of individual learners' potentials, and that we should not leave anyone behind. That there is need for entrenchment of ICT in the teaching and learning process, as well as the management of our education systems. It's so important that we start building our capacities in terms of infrastructure that we need to bridge the technology divide. That there is need to strengthen the African Curriculum Association as a professional body for curriculum experts in Africa, so that it gives us an opportunity to share that which is good for all of us. And that there is always need, to encourage ourselves that we converge on the good that is there in our continent. When we talk about best practice, what is our contribution to that which is called best practice? So we need to be so careful so that sometimes we don't just copy and paste what is out there. We must align it to what it is that we require as a people. While we acknowledge that the world today is a global village, but a village starts from a home. So what does the home require? While you look at what the village is doing. So as a continent, let's be the house as we look at the village so that we are able to feed and take appropriate food, because sometimes the food that is taken in the village may not necessarily be making you comfortable in the house. As I conclude, I know that we have created opportunities to change the education narrative in Africa. We are the change agents, and we are the change drivers. So let's take our roles. Let's do this, both as individuals and collectively. The solutions that we require is within ourselves, and we can be able to deal with our challenges. So let's move forth and ensure that our children will be better than ourselves. You know, in this country, and you saw the other day, a young lady called Faith Kipyegon. You know, within a range of a month, she's been able to break 3 world records. Also around here, there is a man who ran a sub 2 hours in marathon. And there is a race called relay. Those two are running a different set. Nigerians are always very, very good in the short one, the one for 4 by 100. So, in relay, you make sure that whoever you are handing over the baton to can run better than you so that your team can win. So as we sit here as experts, let's ensure that in this relay, those who shall earn this baton will run better than we have done, because we have prepared a better ground for them to run in a better way. So, once again, good people, I would like to sincerely appreciate the organizers and partners who have made this particular conference a success. And as you go home also, I would want to pray that God will give you journey mercies so that we can celebrate and share the knowledge that we have acquired, and that we shall continue to engage. You know, COVID gave us one thing that is positive. It taught us about virtual engagement, that we can sit in our different corners and still be able to engage as though we are in a room. So let's continue engaging and sharing the best that is there so that we can make our continent better. And with those very many remarks, I would want to therefore say, as we wait for the few papers that we shall do in the afternoon, that we have concluded this conference. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our Principal Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, on Monday morning, Madam Jacqueline Onyango taught us the CBC Club. If we were doing a knowledge-based curriculum, I would have asked you to take pieces of paper and explain in one page what the CBC Club entails. But now that we are in CBC, I want to see if we have been able to, shall be able to apply that knowledge. So while you are, so can we all now join in giving our our Principal Secretary 3 serious counts of CBC Club. Ready, go. 2. Last. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to call upon a colleague of mine to move a vote of thanks, but to save time, we shall be requesting our Principal Secretary to issue a few certificates. And so I want to call on the names of the people who will be issued, just a few, to be on standby just next to where Lillian Mwang. Barasa, Dicken Ogoni, Dr. Susan Kurgat, Fatma Sharif, Magdalene Kerubo, Professor Edward Apia, Mugumo Munene, Dr. Jane Imbunya, Austin Kalamba, Miriam Katundula, Bernadette Nambi, Musa Yusuf, Professor Andre, Bulen Daniel, Omat Okony Olok, Hectora Pine Bailey, Azen Amadou Abdu Ali, Asufa Soumana, and Hamise Chef Dean. So those, please be on standby there because the vote of thanks will just take a short while. So that after Eunice has given that, we can wind up. Meanwhile, Madam Eunice Gachoka, kindly a very quick vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. PS, ACA officials, the Chair of Council, KICD, the CEO, KICD, the representative from the different sagas, and all distinguished delegates. Mine is a very simple task, just to pass a vote of thanks. Remember that we have not concluded this conference, but to conclude this ceremony, we have to give a vote of thanks. And I'll begin by first and foremost thanking the Almighty God for giving us this opportunity and this day to be able to engage with our colleagues from the African continent during this 3-day conference. Our appreciation goes to Dr. Belio Kipsang, the Principal Secretary, the State Department of Early Learning and Basic Education, for getting time within his busy schedule to be able to come and engage with us. Thank you very much, sir. We'd like you to pass our appreciation also to the CS, Ministry of Education, Honorable Ezekiel Mashogu, who was ably represented by the PS, Dr. Beatrice Inyangala, during the opening session of this 3 days conference. We don't take it for granted as an institute that the Ministry of Education has actually continually supported us with the relevant policies and the resources that we require to enhance issues curriculum. So we say a big thank you to the support that we have received from the ministry. As we come to the end of this conference then, which has brought together the curriculum developers and implementers, the education administrators, the teacher trainers, the development partners, and other key stakeholders, we appreciate all the delegates for their presence, and we recognize and say a big thank you for finding time to engage during this conference. Gratitude to the ACA officials, chaired by the patron, Dr. Osei from Ghana, and representatives from the various countries, just to mention a few, Uganda, Chad, Ghana, and the rest of the countries, for conceptualizing and actualizing the ACA Conference 2023 that is coming to an end today. Appreciation also goes to our KICD Council, which is chaired by Professor Elishiba Kimani, and all the council members for their invaluable support in facilitating the activities of this conference. For the keynote speakers, we say a big thank you. The patron ACA, the director UNESCO, IBE, the Secretary General ACA, the African Union representative, and the CEO KICD, Professor Charles Ongondo, we say thank you for your keynote addresses. Our appreciation to all the presenters who identified and presented well-researched, informative, engaging, thought-provoking, futuristic, and contextualized topical areas from across the different countries with the themes that have been mentioned earlier. We also applaud all the presenters for the time taken to prepare and present during this ACA conference. Our recognition once more to all the invited guests of the conference. Without your presence, the presenters would not have an audience to listen to. Our gratitude to all who joined online, taking advantage of technology, including those who took time to record their presentations. Thank you very much. To our colleagues from Kenya, the universities, the Teacher Service Commission, the different sagas, including Simastea, TSC, NEC, KISES, SEPU, the KPA, the publishers, we say a big thank you. The entire fraternity of KICD, the organizing committee, the event management of this event is homegrown. Everything you see around was done by KICD, the rapporteurs, the ushers, and especially the KICD choir. We say a big thank you and appreciate you for attending this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eunice. Where I come from, we always finish with the people who cooked. So just reminding you should have said, and finally, those who cooked and made us satisfied. So kindly, as I said earlier, I will call your name, and then you'll step forward. Our Principal Secretary, sir, kindly accept to award the following people certificates of participation. So, Professor Barasa Mukadi, those who are present, Jackie, please present this. Oh, okay.
Mioken Niken Ogon. Dr. Susan Purgat. Fatma Sharif. Fatma Sharif. Magdalene Kerubo.
The line of CBC is such that learners would take 2 years, pre-primary, 6 years in lower primary, 3 years in junior secondary. That was a shift from what was there earlier on, and 3 years in junior secondary. Then there will be a minimum of 3 years at university level. Move to the next slide. So now we come to the gist of the matter, new teaching and learning materials. And that is where now the collaboration between the Kenya Publishers Association and the KICD gained even much more traction. Implementation of CBC certainly meant that new instructional materials had to be developed. Therefore, new learners' books as well as teachers' guides had to be written as per the curriculum designs that had been developed and released by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. The experts, the curriculum experts who are here, the subject specialists who are here, came up with the curriculum designs. Because this is the arm of the government that is tasked. Yesterday, the professor, director of KICD, shared with us a flyer that details what exactly KICD does. So this is a high-level summary. Among so many others, it does research on curriculum-related matters. It develops curricula for schools. It trains teachers and other stakeholders on interpretation of the curriculum, and much more. It evaluates and approves curriculum support materials that target learners as well as teachers. So, with the new curriculum designs, new ways of teaching, approach to learning, book publishers really needed training. So we move to the next slide, which starts with book publishers. So book publishers were among the stakeholders that benefited from training from KICD in order to develop and publish books tailored as per the curriculum designs that had been developed. Kindly move to the next slide, which starts with the book publishers were among. Book publishers were among. It is slide number 11. Slide 11. Yes. But before we detail the process of training and developing the materials, it is good to give a very short snapshot of the processes that involved book development. You know, we reflect on the changes that have happened in the book supply chain in Kenya. Prior to 1999, all books tailored for schools, primary schools and secondary schools, were done by two state publishers, Kenya Literature Bureau and Jomo Kenyatta Foundation, working in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, which later was restructured and renamed the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Therefore, all the other publishers could not penetrate into that space. It was reserved for KIE, KLB, and JKF. But in 1998, the country experienced, already the country was experiencing liberalization in very many industries. And the liberalization also touched on the education sector and specifically the book supply system. So after liberalization, the government opened up the supply to commercial publishers. Now, that opening up meant that many other publishers could get into the space. And the liberalization, we move to slide number 13, also coincided with the indigenization of so many multinationals. You know, Heinemann became East African Educational Publishers, Macmillan became Moran, and so many other companies that could not survive the effort that was being put by indigenous publishers. So today, as we speak, only one multinational has got a foothold in the country, Oxford University Press. We move to slide number 15. Now, the gist of this presentation, collaboration between publishers and the government. One of the factors that have contributed towards this collaboration is goodwill that exists between the two parties. Publishers have got an umbrella body, we have talked about it, Kenya Publishers Association, which brings together all the publishing firms, book publishing firms in this country. And KPA acts as the regulatory body, among other things that we do, tasked with representing publishers in their engagements with the government. Therefore, instead of having a multiplicity of voices, we have one voice, which is KPA. We engage in consultations, cordial engagements, and collaborations with the KICD, because again, KICD, when it shifted from KI to KICD, new leadership brought in the need for collaboration, consultative engagements, among others. Therefore, even at the level of advertising for submissions, we engage with the KICD and arrive at practical timelines for submission of the materials that we are developing. We also critique the evaluation criteria that KICD has come up with to see really whether it is mutually beneficial to the two bodies. And we hold constant consultative meetings with a view to arriving at the best materials possible. Slide number 17, we've talked about training, so we will not overemphasize that area, but we will say they are intensive, so that we are able to interpret the curriculum designs. We are able to write books that resonate with the level of the learner, and that can only come from the KICD specialists, the experts in curriculum development. Slide number 18 is just training sessions that we are taken through by KICD. Some of them happen here, others elsewhere, and they have been very useful in terms of improving the quality of materials that we produce as publishers. Slide number 19, but there is also a caveat that I want to put, that both KPA and KICD are agreed that the moment we submit the books to KICD for evaluation, communication between us ceases completely, because we do not want to compromise the process of evaluation. I also want to mention that KPA, we have a code of ethics. And this code of ethics helps in terms of containing and regulating malpractices which are likely to happen amongst some of our members with a view to compromising especially this process of evaluation. Upon evaluation, slide 20, we get detailed reports from KICD. The reports, one's book can be approved, but with conditions. The report details the areas that need to be addressed so that the book can be even better. 2, the book can be rejected, and the report is detailed to the extent that the moment you read, you see the reasons that led to the rejection of your book. The books go through another process of enhancing quality, and this is, again, so much collaboration between the editors and the subject specialists until that time when it will reach a level that KICD signs on the book and says it is approved by KICD, which simply means it is approved by the Ministry of Kenya, the Ministry of Education, or it is approved by the government of Kenya. Slide number 20 has got images of some of those books. If you go to slide 20, if you check at the top on slide 20, please go back to slide 20, the image. Oh, 21, yeah. At the very top, it carries a banner, Government of Kenya, not for sale. And that there is also a running footer throughout the book. So those books are distributed free of charge to all the schools, public schools in the country. Move to the next slide. And all the, next slide please, 22. Yes, all the approved books are listed in a government catalog, which is popularly known as the Orange Book. That's the front page of the Orange Book. So that the moment we go marketing our books to public schools, they will pick the Orange Book and check, is it approved by the institute? And they buy based on that approval. Slide 23, the procurement process, again, that's a major significant change that happened in 2018. we used to have what we call decentralized system. We would publish books after they are approved by KICD. We would sell to booksellers, then schools, parents, and other end users would buy from those booksellers. But the government introduced a centralized system because it had realized that it was not getting value for its money. This centralized system means once the book is approved, actually the centralized system also came together with another policy of one textbook policy. So the moment KICD evaluates books, it picks the best books in terms of quality. Then we go through, so let's move to the next slide. You can jump the supply chain, we have already explained it. Move to the next slide. We go through another process of financial bid. So if we are 10 of us with the best mathematics book for, let's say, grade 4, we submit our best prices to KICD. And the book that has got the best price is the one that is picked by the government and supplied throughout the country. So today, from 2018 up to 2023 to date, that system has been happening, and we can say confidently that if you go to public schools in Kenya, they have books for grade 1 up to grade 7 to the ratio of 1:1. And we are saying that if you move to the next slide, that perhaps we are actually the only African country that has been able to achieve that feat of ratio of 1:1, and among very few all over the world. Move to slide 27, I'm concluding. And we are saying there are certain areas, in spite of all these gains, there are certain areas that will need improvement. One is undercutting. The moment the 10 of us are approved and we are told to submit prices, there have been tendencies of certain publishers undercutting. They win, but they win the tender and really struggle to supply because the prices they had submitted were ridiculously low. 2, there is need for variety in schools. Fortunately, the KICD and the government, for that matter, has listened, and from grade 8, we will be supplying 2 of them. We hope that the government can improve that to 3. Slide 28, we also developed books in foreign languages as well as indigenous languages. However, no funding has been provided for indigenous languages. That's an area for improvement. And lastly, we would also be very happy if some funds were to be provided towards general reading materials, storybooks, novellas, novels, and other creative works, so that we can achieve the SDG number 4, lifelong learning, promoting lifelong learning. Of course, there is also the area of SNE, the special needs education. Publishers have not adequately invested in that area, and there is need for collaboration. Conclusion on page 30. From the foregoing, we have demonstrated the value that can be derived from public-private partnerships for the benefit of the learner. We would recommend this model to other African countries so that we can grow the knowledge economy in Africa. Thank you very much.
Let's appreciate once again Mr. Kamau for he has taken us through the collaboration of publishers and the government, and he has shown us how it is being done. So if you have any question for him, there'll be time to ask questions that he can respond. At this point in time, allow me to invite Mr. Ignatius Nalianya-Simiu, who is going to take us through parental involvement in the development of basic numeracy among children aged 4 to 8 years in Kenya.
Okay, good afternoon. Well, as it has been put, I'm Ignatius Nalianya. I'll be taking you through parental involvement in the development of basic numerical skills among children aged 4 to 8 years in Kenya. We realize that when a child is born, the person that takes care of that kid is the mother, who plays a very big role, and then of course also we have the father. And in the course of being brought up, there is quite a lot that a child learns, even before, let's say, they advance, they get to an age whereby they transit to preschool, then later on to primary school. The experience that a child undergoes during those early years, before they go to school, before they go to preschool, and then later on, when they go to preschool, play a critical role in enhancing their learning, not only numerous skills, but also other skills in other learning areas. This paper has been organized in 3 main parts, let me call them 4, whereby there is a background to the study, then we have the methodology, analysis of the results, then we have the conclusion. And in the background, we have given the definition of some of the keywords used in the paper, and then also looked at some of the studies that were done in other places concerning the same topic. Then in the results, we've looked at the papers that, or the studies that were done in Kenya on the same subject, and seen how, say, parental involvement influences the development of basic numerical skills among children aged 4 to 8 years in Kenya. So, as per our paper, we talk about parental involvement in the educational context. We imply the active participation of the parent in the education of their children or the child. And by talking about education here, or learning experiences, they could be formal or informal. That is as per a scholar called Anne, 2004. Then the question is, why is it that parental involvement in the child's education is very critical? You realize that, the parents are the first, let me talk about the primary caregivers, and then also, when a child comes into the world, the first person that they interact with is the parent. So in that particular case, the parent becomes the teacher, the parent becomes the doctor, and almost everything to the child. And plays a very important role in ensuring that the child is well in terms of being stimulated, so that at least the child develops milestones along different dimensions of growth and development. And many scholars have supported that. For example, we have Jean Piaget, who supports those early childhood experiences. We have Froebel also supports that when we give a child, or when we expose a child to appropriate experiences, they are likely to do well as far as learning is concerned. And there are some of the activities that, parents can engage children at home so that they can acquire some basic numeracy skills. And some of them include things like preparation of meals, we have shopping, laundry, narrating of stories, we have singing of songs that have numbers, among others. That's as per some of the scholars. Then somebody might ask, in an activity like laundry, how can a child acquire, say, basic numerical skills? There are several. For example, before talk of washing of the clothes are done, there is a sorting and grouping, maybe based on the color and other things. Those are pre-number activities, and they are very critical in enhancing talk of acquisition of those basic numerical skills, and later on learning mathematics. There are various forms of parental involvement whereby we have communication between family and school. There is supporting learning activities at home and involvement in activities at school. These are not the only ones. We have a scholar by the name Epstein who proposes 6 types of parental involvement in their children's education. So we can look at it later on and maybe find out more. Then, what about now, whatever that we are terming as numeracy skills, or basically numeracy? When we talk about numeracy at that particular level, we imply quantitative literacy, whereby a child uses the numerous skills to navigate the demands of life or the challenges of life. And we may ask ourselves maybe, what are some of these demands of life? What are some of these challenges of life? Well, a scholar by the name Rousseau says that perception, the way children perceive things and the way we perceive things is very different. So, some of the demands could be talk about doing things like sharing when they are in groups, counting play objects, among others, and that one can enhance the development of the numerous skills. Then, some of the basic numeracy some of the numeracy skills in early childhood that we expect them to acquire are like classification, that's pre-number activities, there is number work, we have measurement, we have mathematical operations such as addition, there is subtraction, then division. Home and school experiences play a critical role in not only child learning but also education. That is as per somebody called Bronfenbrenner, who says that, the environment that a child grows in, that is first, that is at home, then later on transits to school, plays a critical role in enhancing some of these numerous skills. And that the collaboration between the two environments is key in enhancing the learning of the child. Then, studies have been carried out in Europe and others in West Africa, which indicate that mathematical related activities at home enhance the development of basic numerous skills. This paper therefore examines the development of parental involvement in the development of basic numerous skills among children aged 4 to 8 years. Our methodology, we used to term as desk study methodology, whereby we sampled some of relevant previous studies, and the sampling technique that we used was purposive sampling, whereby we picked only the most important studies that were done, whose discussions follow, whereby the first study that we looked at was done by somebody called Lugongo, that is the year 2000, whereby the title was Impact of Parental Involvement on the Development of Numerous Skills Among Children, Preschool Children in Kakamega County. You can see the popular sample size, then the key findings, whereby the aspect of parental involvement, we had a provision of learning materials, which was at 55, then supervision of homework, which was 47, then creation of a conducive environment, which was 38, then parental school communication, which was 29. After analysis, of course, the researcher did some correlation to find out how does parental involvement, those aspects, correlate with the development of numerous skills. Okay, as per the study, it suggests that there was a strong correlation between provision of learning materials and development of numeracy, basic numerous skills. And the person supported this by saying that, provision of the materials, make abstract ideas more understandable to the children. Then we had that one of another moderate positive correlation between parental supervision of homework and development of numerous skills, which was at 0.5. Then there was a weak positive relationship between parental school communication and development of numerous skills. Well, in the conclusion, it was said that, parental involvement is key in that particular study in the development of basic numerous skills among the children. And the findings of that study, resonates well with that one of Yaro, which was carried out in Ghana in the year 2015. Then another one was that one of Mwirija, that is in 2013, whereby The title was Influence of Parental Involvement on the Academic Performance of Preschool Children in Kangeta Division, that is Meru County, Kenya. We have the size of the sample there. Then there is the aspects of parental involvement, whereby creation of a conducive environment was about 72.85. Then parent-school communication was 68. Then supervision of homework 90. Then participation was 75. Okay, as per the study, it revealed that there was a very strong relationship. That's after doing the study, the children were given some activities to do on mathematics. Then it was realized that there was a very strong positive relationship between providing conducive environment at home, supervision of work, and parental participation in educational tours and development of numerous skills compared to parental school communication with the development of basic numeral skills. Based on the findings, it was concluded in that particular study that, parents still play a very important role in the development of basic numeral skills among the children. And the findings are in harmony with the findings of the study by somebody called Lefevre, which was carried out in 09, that is in Europe. Then the last one was a study by somebody called Kisiangani, which was done in Bungoma on the same subject. You can see the sample size there. We have 150 preschool parents, then others you can see. Key findings: the parental provision of materials was very low. Supervision of work was also very low. Then ensuring that the children are in good health also wasn't that quite impressive. Attending school meetings was at 50. The findings indicated that, children in the zone where the study was carried out did not have appropriate basic numeral skills. And as per the study, that one was influenced by the low involvement of the parents in their children's education. And when going through those studies, parents reported that those things that hindered them from getting involved in their children's education was a lack of time, because some of them talked of being very busy. Then the others said that they did not have knowledge. Like when a child brings home homework, they could not understand what the teacher expected them to do. So that one is a lack of knowledge on what goes on in school, in their children's whatever. As per the paper, when you look at those studies, we came to conclude that parental involvement in mathematical-related activities with their children is key in the development of early numeracy among children aged 4 to 8 years. Those experiences that a child is taken through at home play a very critical role in the development of the basic numeracy skills among the children, because home is the first environment, and the child can explore and learn more. Then we made some recommendations, whereby one of them is that there is need to have the parents sensitized by teachers and other educational stakeholders on their need to support the learning of their children while at home. Because, there is quite a lot that they need to do. As in, first, the child develops trust in their parents before they can develop the trust in other people. So, when they get involved, when they are sensitized on their roles, then they can be better involved in the development of basic motor skills among their children. Then the second last recommendation was enhance implementation of policies on parental involvement. For example, those provided by the KICD guideline on parental empowerment and engagement. Then lastly, encouraging parental involvement in the development of basic numerous skills in their children. That's the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ignatius. I did realize that I was showing him that he has 5 minutes, but members read it, that I was telling him time is up. It was that he was at halftime. Thank you for that presentation. So if you have any questions for Ignatius, time will come. At this point in time, let me welcome Mr. Alfayo Chola. I don't know the title of his talk, but he'll tell us. He's one of us from KICD. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As he has said, my name is Alfayo Ochola, a Senior Curriculum Development Officer in charge of physics. Now, my colleague presented something on virtual lab, and under STEM, we are also trying to ensure that the STEM subjects are made simpler to our students, are made friendly to our students, so that they can like the subjects. One of the most affected subjects is physics. So the milestones we have achieved so far, we have come up with a workbench which is dealing with electronics or circuit-based practical work. This one makes part of the practicals to be easier and simple. So as we normally go to different schools from KICD, we get feedback from our teachers, from school principals, from students themselves, and we always act on those responses or the requests. So why did we come up with this? And why do we think it can work? After coming up with this software, we had to take it to school and test it. So we carried out a study in Nairobi County here to find out how effective it is so that we can include it in part of the virtual science laboratory that we'll be having soon. So we are saying physics being one of the sciences, we always learn it or teach it theoretically or through practical work. And practicals in Kenya, particularly now under 844 system, it contributes to at least 40%. And within that 40%, the circuit-based practicals takes half of it. That means it takes a lion's share, and it must be assessed, and it must appear in your final results. So we felt that high level of accuracy, particularly when writing practicals report, is key. And for the students to be accurate when writing reports, then they need to have devices that do not mislead them, devices that can enable them to acquire science process skills. There are 5 in number. The basic science process skills, we talk about observation, we talk about communication, we talk about inference, we talk about classification, and so on. So with this workbench, we thought these learners can be more accurate and to maximize their score when it comes to final examination. So this workbench is a software. This software allows the user or the learner himself or herself to do practical activities by observing, manipulating, and manipulating objects and apparatus in a computer. So the workbench enables the user to construct digital and analog simulations in circuit. When you talk about circuit, this is practicals having current moving through a conductor, having devices, like the devices we have, the phone you have as a circuit in it, because there is a source of energy, and that source of energy enables the current to flow. Now, this is the dashboard of the software. This dashboard allows the learner to click, drag, and come up with a circuit. All the devices that learners may need to conduct circuit-based practicals are here. So their work will be able to click, come up with a circuit, switch it on, and see and read the values. Those values will be more accurate. If they want to manipulate, like for example, you've been given a source of energy, like a dry cell. If you want to adjust it from 1.5 volts to 3.0 volts, they'll be able to manipulate it and come up with the values they want. One of the circuits is here. As you can see, there is a voltmeter there. There is source of energy, that is dry cells. We also have ammeter. We also have a resistor and even a bulb. So that bulb is the load. So from here, they can observe, make observations, looking at how much current is flowing through that bulb and make decision. They can adjust that resistance to regulate amount of current flowing in that circuit. And more circuits can be made through that workbench. What was the problem? When we moved through different schools, we always know that effective practical work enables many students to test their ideas and theories, which is crucial to cultivating problem-solving strategies. And this results to individual self-reliance if they are able to solve different problems through practical work. Now, to acquire the basic science process skills that I was talking about, these skills are required for further physics-related training and careers, and even modern, we are saying modern approaches are required for them to acquire these skills, because they will be required in future, wherever they'll be, whatever they'll be doing. So practical approach of instruction in secondary schools should emphasize more on students' accuracy in conducting the practical work itself. So this goes hand in hand with a student's attitude change towards practical activities and the subject itself. We know in physics we face gender disparity. We have very few ladies in physics compared to the counterpart, the male students or people who are taking careers related to STEM. So their attitude, the way physics is taught, the way physics they are carrying or learning may also change their attitude. Now, all those good things we are talking about practical work. In Kenya, we are facing these challenges. One, there is inadequate physics laboratory equipment and apparatus, which is true. Okay. At the same time, we have inadequate spaces within the laboratories we have in school, because we have we have so many learners in schools, and they may not be able to fit within the lab. Now, schools are also struggling with limited resources to purchase, repair, and maintain available physics laboratory equipment. Every year, when National Examination Council wants to assess our learners, they will always request for purchasing of new devices, having different rates. So every year, a school buy new materials or new apparatus, which the workbench will have all of them. They can just adjust the scale and they will do the practicals. At the same time, now that we have very many learners in school, they always do practicals in shifts. Meaning, when they are doing these practicals, time is taken. And with the practicals we do in the morning, is different from the practical we'll be doing at daytime because temperatures change, so many things have changed. So this shifting process denies students equal opportunity to do the practicals. And again, within that laboratory, the apparatus we have, some of them are faulty. You may have, let's say, a conductor or a wire in a simple term. When you connect it, you find it is not working. So learners give up. You may have, let's say, a voltmeter. It is faulty. It is having error. When you get the readings are not accurate. When you present your report, then you don't score according to how you are supposed to score. So when such apparatus are used, students may encounter inaccuracy, invalidity, incorrect interpretation, inability to write correct SI units, and also may not be able to plot a graph. If the graph is plotted, the graph may not be accurate and they may not be able to perform according to what is required. And we are saying, as they use those kind of apparatus, they may experience systematic error, human error. When you are reading a screen, those who drive, when you look at your speed gauge, you may think the vehicle is moving, but the indicator is indicating 0. What is that now? Such kind of experiences, learners also have them in what? In the labs. So you find the results may not be what to the expectations. So learners, this can also lead to poor understanding, and to some extent they may not be able to grasp the concept that is required. Therefore, this one now compromises the learner's decision to choose physics when they get discouraged. Now, when we carried this study in Nairobi, our main objective was about accuracy. We were comparing these learners. If we use the normal method of teaching and learning practical work, they are using the normal devices, and these others are using what? The workbench. What was the difference? And these are the methodology that we had. We had 2 groups. There is a group which is called experimental group, who are using what? The workbench, and then there is control group, those who are using the normal devices. So the study area was in Nairobi, and the school principals, the physics teachers and learners, all of them participated. And the sampling was also done according to standard. Then you may not be able to see that. What we were looking at, we have the actual value, the right value for a reading. So we were looking at the deviation. There was a test before, practical, and then there is a test after. So this one before, we were looking at the entry behavior. How are they getting readings? How are they deviating from the real value? Then we could now see the deviation. Then after, teaching them using the workbench and the normal way, we gave them another what? Exam. Then now we are now comparing the difference. So if we know that one dry cell, the value is 1.5 volts. So we're looking at the deviation, those who are deviating far away and those ones who are deviating closer. And then we can narrow down and compare the value. So what we were checking here was about current, 1. 2, we're looking at potential difference, that is current moving within a circuit when it is acting on a load. Then finally, we're looking at electromotive force, a current within a source which is not supplying any current. And if you look at that table, you will see that before, both the learners in different groups, they were almost the same, and they were deviating far away. But after the practical work, these learners who are doing it using a workbench, we could see the results coming closer to the actual value as it is in the literature. After that, we also did some inferential analysis, and we realized that when the data obtained from these learners who were carrying out practical using workbench, there was a significant statistical what? Result. Meaning this workbench has a lot of influence compared to those who are using the normal devices. At the same time, we also did qualitative analysis, and here both teachers, students, and particularly teachers and students, because they are always linked to physics lessons one-on-one. So they could tell us to what extent could these learners draw an accurate or maybe plot an accurate graph. And also we tested that one later and we found some results. At the same time, we're looking at how they can manipulate these devices. If they find a device as a 0 error, the indicator is saying negative, maybe 0.2, and you want to get reading towards positive, what can they do? So those are manipulative skills, which are practical skills. So we also looked at acquisition of basic science process skills, that is observation and classification. We also looked at measurement. We also looked at practical skills, students' attitude towards practical work, and physics. So that is extent where we have reached. I know we have full report. Once it is published, you'll be able to get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Alfayo, for taking us through what you're doing. And you can see that at least with the use of the workbench, the learner experience is getting better. And those who are scared of taking physics can now apply the workbench to get better results. So at this point in time, I'm being told there is one presenter online. Kokelo, is the presenter ready? So that we finish with the online one and then we take questions all together.